Don't fucking look at my goddamn ceiling, you bastards. Hello, welcome back to the water. My name is Beast, and today we're back. Felt weird. Anyways, hello, back to the water. My name is Beast, and today we're back with Hello Lady. Last time we finished Tamo's route. Tamo's fucking amazing. Now let's go for Sorako, who I honestly kind of think is a bit bland compared to the rest. I expect her route to be like a more in-depth look at Shunsui's past, like before Narita became a thing. That's at least my personal expectations here. I feel like doing Tamo first is a good choice though. Like Tamo is like an overall like mix of everything, the kind of stuff you can expect from other routes. Then it's probably gonna be Soroko's probably gonna be more about the past, what happened before Kurofune killed the Mikoto clan. I'm very interested about Iru, because I feel like there's something there that we don't know yet. And then I guess the best way to put it would be that Saku would be the law representative. Anyways, let's just go for it. But hey, that's just my prediction. So, oh, okay, so there's literally no change then. Go into the dorm living room. We could have just like kept skipping here instead of starting the part early. I think the living room was a scene with Sorako. It was, yes. So let's just go that. Sure, accept her challenge.
Nani?
Here, let's see. What the stats doing? 5 zeal. You got 2 for Saku, that's actually kind of worrying. But we can't even enter Saku's route yet, so it doesn't really matter. Let's go to the dorm. That should put us at 4 zeal, so we're still completely fine. Hallway, I guess? I don't fucking know. Like, there's no stat for Hishiya, so there is a stat for Hishiya, actually. What? Okay. I'm just like bold, like there is no stat for. You fucking guessed wrong, bitch. Living room for Sorako.
Hishiya, kore o.
Did I mess up again? I'm just always immediately in a fucking state of did I fuck up?
まあ、これは小さい箱、綺麗な包装、リボン。まさか手紙爆弾の一種では。
Is this because I have 1 point in Hishiya, so now I get the Hishiya route? Or some bullshit like that?
どうやらもう少し文化的生活を営む必要がありそうだな。これはいわゆるプレゼントだよ。
そうかもしれないとは疑っていましたが、まさか本当にそうだとは。
いつも世話になっている感謝を込めてだ。たまにはよかろう。
まあここで開けても構いませんか？成田様、これは一体。
見ての通り新しい首輪だよ。次女にはふさわしい一品だろ。スクールの購買にはいいものが揃っている。
What?
こんなものを売っている学園の購買もさることながら、女へのプレゼントを購買で買ってきて自慢するご主人様の神経も正気を疑うレベルで大概です。
気に入らないのかね。
それ以前の問題です。だいたい次女がつけているのはチョーカーであって首輪ではありません。
そうというかもしれない。
これに懲りたら金輪際ヒシアに気を使う真似などされないように、ろくなことになりません。それに今更でございます。成田様からはちゃんといただくものはもらっておりますので。
Can this man decide if he wants to play it or not? Like this man's has like opened the same game and closed it like 3 times in a row.
今までに贈り物をした覚えはないのだが。
そんなに言うならお見せしましょう。これでございます。
She pulled the thing hanging on her neck out from under her clothes. There were 2 small bullets connected by a thin chain.
そんなものまだ持っていたとは。
そういうわけでございますので、成田様には心惑わされることなく、ご自分のなすべきことをなされますよう。
そうしよう。まだまだ先は長い。すべてはこれからなのだから。
はい。
Yep, I accidentally ended it up in her route.
海賊版
Does that mean that there's actually like a short teacher route thing? Like I say Hishia route as a joke more.
全国の自助ファンお待ちかね、ペルーシェマンショーのコーナー。
Like that, I know there's a proper Hishia route. It's just like that's in the fan disc. We're currently still in the base game in this complete version of the game that includes the fan disc with Hishia's route. So in the base game, this was probably like some joke Hishia ending that they put in.
今回は我らが田舎都市奥島の郊外からお送りしています。この道のあたり、夜中になるとマジ真っ暗で困りますよ。奥島市内からスクールまではこの暗い道をずーっと行くわけなのです。スクールは山間の丘陵部にあるので、大概何があっても学園内で決着がついてしまって、外では騒ぎになりませんなどという心温まる話はそこそこにしまして、さーてお仕事。今回のエンドは人に歴史ありというお話です。あの腐れご主人様とヒシアの間にも長く切なく美しい思い出があったりなかったり、そしてこのエンドに来たということはやっぱり足りなかったわけですが、途中で買い物したりしませんでしたか？目的を果たすためには時に心を鬼にすることも必要。余計やると決めたらまっすぐうつばし。それではまた他のエンディングでお会いしましょう。
But I'm kind of curious if I'll get like a short scene like that when I choose the fucking teacher. So guess what I'm gonna do real quick?
これ男の
Yeah,
反
story
逆
of a certain man. I don't
自由へ至
give
る
a shit.
道のりの
Meet them boldly. Too bad I actually have to like start over like this every time. Because apparently the score carries over.
ふむ、策が見当たらない。
と言ってもあなたのつくべ
Chat me at how much? Zeal? 4 zeal. Actually, no, that's that is her score since she's saying it. Go for that.
では課題をスタートします。
Then we need to choose the dorm living room. I choose living room. I know there's not much to see here right now. I don't apologize. I blame the game. Dorm. How much am I now? 3 zeal. And let's go to facilities building.
本日の講義は教室では
Now we're here. Sorako.
まさか大義がエトワールに加わるとはな。
予想外の成り行きですか、ご主人様。
これで役者は揃ったと言うべきだろうな。いいとも、かつて友だったものよ。もはやこの身に人の哀れは流れてはおらぬ。お前が敵となるならばこの手で結末を与えよう。
成田様。
行くぞ菱谷、全てはこれからだ。
はい。
帝黒船、その日を楽しみに待つがいい。
ペルシャマンショー海賊版。
So now that I get too much zeal.
俺たちの戦いはまだ始まったばかりだ。
I mean, if you want, I guess I can fucking do it. Yeah, oops, that's a hole.
やってきました、ペルシャマンショーのコーナー。スクールのすぐ近く、化け物が出ると噂の森からお送りしています。今回は典型的な10周打ち切りパターン。行くぞ、ご主人様の愛が世界を救うと信じて。愛って言ってもご主人様のは父への愛って感じですが、はあはあはあさて、このエンディングに来たということはいろいろと足りなかったということです。覚悟が足りなかったのか、それとも覚悟はあったけどぼっちだったのか。もっと人間関係をしっかり構築して、お友達とかちょっといい感じな彼女とかと学園ものらしくしないとダメじゃないですか。そこに気をつければ大丈夫。それでは今日のところは、まだ尺が余ってる？それでは仕方ありません。長い共通ルートをさまよい歩き、そろそろ皆さんもサービスが足りないとか思い始めているはず。では菱谷森の超絶びっくりドッキリエロセシー。あんあんあんあんあんあんあうあうえうえうあー、とっても素敵だね。来ちゃう。菱谷もダメなの。あんあういっちゃう。お楽しみいただけましたか？それではまた他のエンディングで。
People who are playing this and as like the complete edition and actually have the R18 patch, just like see this ending and just go like, just you wait. I will have what was promised. Like, I can't say that it's classroom because I had more than enough here. And this is just towards Samo. I guess go with classroom?
それでは講義を始めます。
Then allow me
あなたのつくべ
go with them.
では課題をスタートし
Dorm living room. Living room. Meet them.
何
What the stats looking? 6 zeal, so I'm going to the dome. Here, what the stats looking like? 5. Just go to cafeteria. Living room. Ha! Is there like some hidden choice that actually increases the stats for her? But you just don't know? Is that it? Because that has to be it! Like, I'm just honestly fucking confused here. I guess we're trying hallway again?
ふむ、策が見当たらない。授業が終わるなり。
And here, like, I refuse, I guess? I don't fucking know. Sure, do I refuse?
と言ってもあなたのつくべき役職は
I'm at 6 zeal now. Go with them because that's the Sorako choice!
では課題をスタートします。各地
Let's go outside, I guess. Fuck it. Who cares? Apparently nothing matters around here. There, I have Sorako 2. Why do I have Saku 1 only now?
何
I have 6 seals. I should probably go to the dorm to lower that again. Go to the cafeteria to lower that again. Living room. Classroom.
それでは講義を始め
Do not appreciate
と
the
言っても
offer.
あなたのつくべき
These two.
では課題をスタートします。各チームは校舎の3方から侵入開始してください。
Dorm living room. My room. No, just select massage them kindly instead so we don't get her point. Where are we now? What are we at? Okay, we going to the dorm. Lower that a wee bit. Then go facilities building. Increase
本
it
日の
again.
講義は教室では
Then we're going to the living room. we fucking go! Double helix! Achievement unlocked, I assume that's for the right. Right. Double helix. Start Sorako's route. About fucking time! Whoops. That's, a wee bit of foam. I reminisced about the sky I'd gazed up at long ago. Young fingers had pointed at a rainbow decorating it. The vibrant colors that had sliced the sky inspired me to dash forward. I had dreams of catching up to that bridge in the sky, but it had since become a mere vision of days lost. A little over half a month had passed since I eliminated my first target, Takeshi Hanazono. My normal days in Tenko Noble Academy continued, hiding my unease. But there was no rest for Shinri Narita the Avenger. The next stage had already been set. The interlude ended, the next act had begun. It was 5 in the morning. It was early summer and the sky was still dark at this hour. Most students were probably in their beds, enjoying the final moments of their dreams. Normally after waking up I trained in my room. I had no real reason for breaking that routine, but I moved to the living room instead. If there was a reason, it would have been the fact that I'd woken up in the wrong state of mind. I controlled my body, mind and heart using yoga and other techniques, so having a bad morning was extremely rare. After guzzling some water in the kitchen, I stabilized my mind using the ancient Egyptian breathing of Geb. Wasn't it like Indian before?
やはり辛労でくつろぐ時間がないせいだろう。君はどう思うかね?
Someone silently walked down the stairs behind me, but I still noticed them, of course.
成田。
今朝は随分と早い起床なのだね、空子。一緒に呼吸法の鍛錬などどうかね。
She's got her glasses
心身
on.
の合一は美容にも効果がある。
That's her trigger for her halo. Received no response. Instead, she gave me a cold look. It was a weak, very weak reaction, especially for someone as sociable as her. Suddenly, an eerie feeling made goosebumps appear on my neck. Appearance hadn't changed, but the figure standing in the middle of the stairs had an air about her that seemed very unlike the normal Sorako.
そういえば、今朝は珍しくメガネをかけているのだね。あの研究校舎でのコレオグラフの時以来か。メガネ姿の空子は知的な印象と凛々しさの増した普段とは違う輝きだ。
そういうものなのか。
She walked down the stairs as if she'd just woken up from a good dream.
これはまあいわゆる気分転換ってやつだよ。
Is this a case of like she actually changes personality when she puts on the glasses? She adjusted the frame of her glasses with her finger. They looked worn and aged, which felt very fitting.
気分転換ついでにちょっと付き合ってくれないか?
Took her up on that offer and went for an early morning stroll. I wondered where she wanted to go at this hour. Also, it went against Shinri Narita's greed to embarrass maidens by refusing them when they had gathered the courage to invite me. It was still dark out, but I left our destination. It was still dark out, and I left our destination all to her. Though, what I could tell, she had no specific place in mind and merely walked wherever her whims took her.
でっかい柱だよな。いつも思うんだけど、最先端な学園なのに、どうしてこんな大時代的なのがあるのかな。
She walked from one front pillar, gate pillar to the next as though dancing.
様式とは積み重ねられた時間が生み出す価値だ。どんなものであれ、最初は無価値なものだよ。
それで？
未来を想像するとは、過去の偉大さも栄光も歴史も一個だにせず、愚物として踏みにじることだ。恐れを知らぬ破壊だけがまだ見ぬものを作り出す力を生む。同時に勇気とは それまでの全てがなければ成立し得ない。石器時代に自動車を作り出せないように。失敗も成功も愚行も英知もいつか至るための素晴らしき過程だ。
Is this story gonna involve the fact that he killed Takeshi and that formed a new scar, even if it was just a small one, but she saw what happened because of it?
ここを作った男はそれをよくわかっている。だからこそ学園の入り口のモニュメントにこんな様式を選んだ。ここより始まり、いつか踏み越えていくために。
成田の話は難しすぎてよくわからないな。
She turned around with the lightness of a feather, walking through the still empty academy with the innocence of a child playing in puddles after rain.
この時間だとさすがにまだ誰もいないか。
誰もいない場所をまだ暗い空の下で歩く散歩も心地いいものだよ。特に麗しい乙女と一緒ならば。
It's not dark.
次はあっちだ。
She pointed at the rose garden. The vibrant plants were still in full bloom, just as they were when I'd first arrived. Since the thick scent reached her nose, she finally stopped in place.
さて、ここには我々以外の誰もいないし、近づいてくればすぐにわかる。当然サクたちの耳にも入るはずもない。なので、そろそろいいのではないかね。
Thinking that the time had come, I said that, making Sorako look as if she'd been caught pulling a prank.
そうか。成田には分かってたのか。
答える代わりに問いかけよう。我が前に立つ見知らぬ影はいかなる闇より訪れたのか、あるいはあのまばゆき雲の狭間から降り来たのかと。
大げさだね。まったくつくづく。私は桂木空子だよ。お前やサクたちの知ってる空子とは違うけどね。私は空子の別人格みたいなものだ。
She revealed that in a most casual manner, as if she were simply discussing the weather. Her non-dramatic confession left me speechless for a moment. I certainly didn't think her response would be so concise and simple.
多重人格だと。
Otherwise known as dissociative identity disorder, or DID. A name for a phenomenon where a single body contained two or more personalities. It was said that an American criminal from the late 20th century had as many as 23 personalities with different character traits, tastes, and even genders.
あれ、思ったよりも驚かないんだな。結構な衝撃の事実でサプライズ告白のつもりだったんだけど。
いや、それなりには驚いているとも。とはいえ、その昔古典ホラーの名手が多重人格をテーマにした映画で一世を風靡した頃とは違う。今時存在だけならすっかりメジャーだ。私自身これまでにも出会った経験があるのでね。よくいるとまでは言わないが、チュパカブラや古代の墓守に比べればよほど出会いやすい。
なんだよそれ。チュパとか墓守とか。
うん、いるところにはいるという代物なのだ。いずれ暇を見て成田真理南米魔法全18巻を語って聞かせよう。6巻の熱帯ジャングルの大追跡でチュパカブラが登場する。
いらない。
それとだ、君の存在については以前からそんな気がしていた。
Indeed, Shinji Narita was not a man who missed the irregularities in Sorako-Katusragis. So I remember the moment Sorako put on her glasses during choreography. She herself claimed that it was just a trigger to activate her halo, but I saw the change in her expression. At last, the proof had appeared before my very eyes.
そこまで承知してるなら手間も省ける。お前は口数は多いけど余計なことをごちゃごちゃ突っ込まないから話が早くていい。
お褒めに預かり光栄だ。それでわざわざこんな場所まで誘ったのはどういうつもりかね。もちろん私は乙女の誘いはできる限り断らない主義なのだが。
そりゃあ。
Soroko's other half, I decided to call Sorako B was fundamentally different from the usual Sorako. Oftentimes was so considerate of others that it came at the expense of herself. Sorako B stood straight and looked me right in the eyes, without a hint of fear or a coldness in her gaze.
バレる前に話しておこうと思ったんだ。ソラコには黙ってるように言われてたけど、隠してても時間の問題だしな。後でバレて惹かれると、その方が面倒だから。
Elegant petals gently danced in the warm morning wind. The rose was often considered to be the queen of flowers, and the girl before me had just enough dignity to fit in with them.
何が時間の問題なのかはさておき、理由は承知した。思ったよりも至極真っ当で結構なことだね。
I had no evidence, but I believed Sorako B's words nonetheless. And it wasn't because she had the same face as Sorako either. I simply didn't feel any malice coming off of her. With that settled, there was only one problem left to address.
私は女性の過去は詮索しない主義だ。特に豊満な女性の過去は。たとえ数千の男を破滅させ一国を傾けた毒婦であろうと、豊満な美しさは全てに勝ってあまりある。
いいのか、そんなことで。私は自分が女だとか
まさか違うのかね。
Soroko's divine breasts were fake? No, wait. She was saying that Sorako B was a male personality. It wasn't uncommon for MPD to create multiple personalities of a gender different than the body. And in those cases, there would have been observations of the body changing due to the mind. Could it mean that Soroko's voluptuousness would be lost? Would the gods truly allow such a heinous crime?
いや、女だって本気で動揺するなよ。見れば一発だろって見せられるのはソラコの体か。
ぜひ見せてくれたまえ。いや、言うまいと思ったが疑っているのだよ。証拠をこの目で見るまでは信用できない。だからさ、この早朝から麗しい豊満を見せてほしい。
いや、見せないし。どうしてそこまで本気で。
そうか、残念だ。
This was quite disheartening, but I had to focus on confirming something else for the moment.
仕方がない。先ほどの続きといこう。私は女性の過去は詮索しない主義だ。無論君が実は平坦で人為的方法でその豊満を作り上げたなどの冒涜的行為に手を染めていた場合は断じて真実を明らかにしないではおかないのだがね。
絶対ない。
ならばよし。だがここではあえて主義を曲げて一つ問わせてもらうとしよう。君はいつからソラコと同居しているのかね。
7 years. The scent of the roses seemed to become poisonous. Depending on her answer, she knew Narita would be put in a precarious situation. She had Soroko's face, but her expression wasn't like hers. It was challenging with a cold grin.
多重人格の2つの人格の間で記憶というものがどうなるのか成田は知ってるか？昔ソラコが調べてたが、ほとんどの場合一方的なんだ。得てしてオリジナルの権限が低い。主導権がない時間の記憶を持たない。サブの方が全ての記憶を管理していたりする。
聞いたことはある。それは交代人格の起源に由来するのだとか。
私たちの関係はそれなりに便利にできてる。私が出てる時も逆の時もお互いに中で見聞きしてるから。ただしそれ以前のことまではわからない。私が生まれて以降のことは私も全て知ってるが、それより前の記憶はソラコだけのものだ。私もそこまで昔からいたわけじゃないから。だから安心していい。そいつが誰なのか私にはわからない。
I consciously reached for the lapis lazuli decorating my uniform. This was a repeat of a conversation we once had after the explosion accident where Sorako saw my wound. Small girl clad in a white dress. It was a shadow portrait that remained within me. The symbol of a wound that would never heal, and the days that would never return.
今も見えるのかな。
wound on my right hand.
いつも見えてるわけじゃないけど、時々はね。私たちのハローはそういう力だ。空子から聞いただろ。
Naturally, Sorako-B had the same halo as the original, the power to see people's wounds. To see the wounds burned into the hearts of others was the equivalent of peeking into secrets they wished to hide. And of course, every human had secrets. It wasn't a power as direct as Tamo or Mituri's, but the fact that there was no defense against it made it far more terrifying. She risked drawing the ire of every HME at the Academy if something went wrong with her powers. She admitted that her halo was immature, and that was probably a blessing for those around her. Sorako-B's vision, there was Shinri Narita's wound, which took the shape of a girl. Soroko Katsuragi actually knew the girl's name, she just hadn't realized it yet. The only reason why Shinri Narita was still alive was the fact that her halo lacked precision.
はいはい、そんなに睨むなよ。言い忘れてたけど、空子はまだ寝ていて意識がない。なので私とお前がこの場で何を話したか、話したこと自体空子にはわからない。
Back.
そういうわけだよ、成田真理。お前が何をどういう理屈で警戒しているのか私にはわからないけれど、少なくとも今朝のことは空子に影響を与えない。
理解はしたとも。
She wasn't lying, meaning I still had some time. Another thing that bothered me was that when she was a child, Soroko Katsuragi didn't have a personality like Sorako-B. Indeed, Narita knew a young Soroko Katsuragi rather well. A smile akin to the spring breeze, a small frame that chased after us whenever we went outside to play. Like Sorako-B explained, in MPD patients, the original's access to memories was generally limited. That was because of the widespread origin of MPD. That was because the widespread origin of MPD was escapism. Human minds created subpersonalities to bear their sins. Essentially, it was a way of dealing with overwhelming mental or emotional trauma in order to protect their psyche. Of course, the original's rights were limited. The very fact that they could not access certain memories was by design. Though it seemed to be different in the case of the two Sorakos. With that in mind, what created Sorako-B?
いや、詮索はするまい。
To Shinri Narita, that was a trifling issue. After all, she was nothing but... However, Sorako looked at me with sharp eyes full of hostility.
納得が得られたようだから本題に入ろう。
先ほどまでの自己紹介が本題ではないのかね。
もちろん違う。本題というのはつまりね、私はお前に文句を言いに来たんだよ、成田真理。こんなこと今しかできないだろう。空子が起きていると邪魔されてしまう。
おや、これは私に何か至らぬことがあっただろうか。常日頃から女性の機嫌を損ねないよう心がけているのだが、不思議と菱谷もよく怒り出すのだよ。この天地の間には思いもよらぬことが多いものだ。するとこれがデートだと思っていたが、今朝はただの自己紹介で本格的には。
全然思いもよってる。誰がデートなんか申し込むか、この変態。彼女を手ごめにしておいて。
As I shrugged inside, she looked at me with cold eyes, the kind you'd use when staring at a slug eating away a verdant plant.
記憶にない。
問題だろ、胸を。あんなに力いっぱい。
いかに女性の発言といえど、私にも見過ごせないことはあるのだよ。全面的に同意の上での美の探求を優に任せて手ごめとは、人聞きが悪いにも程があるぞ。さあ、今すぐ謝罪して賠償として君の胸を確かめさせてくれたまえ。
真剣に頭がおかしいな。
神秘を司る高潔な魂のあり方を理解してもらえないとは残念だが致し方ない。かの大ガリレオがそうであったように、真理とは理解されがたいものなのだから。
とにかくだ。 お前には文句の一つも言ってやりたかった。あの時はぶん殴ってやろうと思ったら空子に止められたからな。今日のところは言いたいことはそれだけだ。
Hostility disappeared, likely because she'd said all she had to.
君の訴えの内容には議論すべきところが多いが、趣旨は理解した。
今日のところは言いたいことはそれだけだ。
Just interrupting him so I can have him start talking from the beginning. Her hostility disappeared, likely because she said all she had to. The girl bearing Soroko's face now looked aloof and detached, just like when she revealed her identity.
君の訴えの内容には議論すべきところが多いが、趣旨は理解した。しかし、そのためにわざわざここまで来たのかね。早朝に私が起きているのを見計らって。
サクたちには私のことは隠しているからね。みんなの前ではなるべく表に出ないようにしているし、やっぱり薄気味悪がるに違いないだろうから。
すると本人以外で君たちが2人と知っているのは
お前だけだよ、成田真理。あとはいや、時のあたりは怪しいが、これでも隠れるのはうまいんだ。
Tokino Yumise was the doctor in charge of us it was. She was a sharp woman, so it wouldn't have been strange if she knew.
部外者として一言言わせてもらうなら、せめて友人には正直に話してみてはどうだろう。
冗談はよしてくれ。お前だって言えない秘密の一つや二つあるだろ。それにこれは空子の問題だ。とやかく言うのはやめてもらおうか。
Indeed, Shinri Narita did have secrets, the kind that could never be revealed to anyone.
君の言う通りだ。誰しも秘密は抱えている。時にそれは友情よりも重い。君の判断に余計な口を挟んでしまったことを謝罪し。
空子はお前を大層気に入っている。さっきも言ったが、遅かれ早かれこのままだと隠せなくなりそうだったから先に話した。私の話はこれで終わりだ。おっと、この場でのことは空子には内緒だ。勝手に喋ったと分かったら怒られてしまう。あれだけアプローチして今更だと私も思うんだが、そのあたりは何とも。
I was once again reminded of how she grazed my head how she grazed my head the night after the choreography incident. Sorako-Katusragis knew of Shinri Narita's past, which endangered my ability to fulfill my oath of vengeance.
ところでもう一つ尋ねたいことがある。私が空子の宝満をこの手で確かめたとき、君はどういった感じだったのかね。
今すぐ頭蓋骨を叩き割って脳みそ全部かき出すぞ。
いいとも。では空子が目を覚まさないうちに寮へと戻るとしよう。
As we walked away, I remembered another important question.
私は君を何と呼べばいい？
別に空子で十分だろ。
Her response was very curt. My chest hurts. Soroko and I returned to the dorm. It was still 6 in the morning. I assumed if anyone was awake at that hour, it would have been Tomo, but... That day of all days, I met a most unexpected face.
2人で散歩だったのかな。僕も行けばよかったよ。まだ目覚める前の風景というのは趣がある。さぞかし。
Daigi Miko, the one freshly minted 7th étoile who joined the dorm as though replacing Mitori Kabutoyama.
確かに何者にも代え難いひとときだった。藍色の朝日、世をとどめた雲、まだ冷気を含んだ風。ジャパニーズわびさびメソッドの深淵に触れたような心地とはこのようなものか。
She clicked her tongue because we ran into someone unexpected. Soroko B silently hid behind me, avoiding Taigi's gaze.
それにしても今日は随分と早い起床だな、大義。普段はもっとゆっくりしているのに。さては悪い夢にでもうなされたのかね。
気分の問題だよ。たまには早くベッドを抜け出てみたくなる時もある。そんな時は得てして世界が思わぬ秘密を囁いてくれるのさ。
It was the chairman's son who joined the Etoiles on extremely short notice. Thus I had no choice but to consider both the circumstance of his appearance and his position artificial.
Mikado Kurofune.
So you're the one behind this. What was his goal? Did he perhaps suspect Shinri Narita? No, I hadn't left any evidence of my involvement. Even if he had a sneaking suspicion, he had no way to confirm it. If I panicked and acted without care, I risked falling straight into a trap. There was no doubt in my mind that he was vigilantly waiting for me to slip up.
相変わらず大義は詩人だ。世界の囁く秘密か。そういうものがあるのなら、私もぜひ聞いてみたいものだよ。
I acted like a friend, but with a sense of familiarity that felt empty. It was extremely easy after all. I just had to remember. Taggy stared straight at me. I was aware of how his languid yet sharp and penetrating pupils pierced into my heart. We were both completely aware of the coldness hiding behind our acts of friendship, but neither of us let our thoughts slip out.
ところで、この間描いていた絵はどうしたのかね？
今作はなかなか気に入ったよ。だから着彩もするつもりでいるんだ。
There was no exaggerating to call this act comical, but we continued the stance regardless. He had a sketchbook on him, probably because he wished to head out for some early morning practice, and showed me one of the things he drew.
江戸川とが顔負けの大義の探求心には恐れ入る。
From what I saw last time, his sketchbook contained nothing but maids. So I compared him to the genius painter Edgar Degas, who was notably obsessed with ballerinas.
じゃあ僕は朝食まで部屋にいる。
Sorako walked up the stairs without waiting for my response. Taiki, Sorako, and I. This moment lasted no more than a few seconds. But it felt like the clock had rewound a whole 7 years. Is there gonna be like a version of that with like a little Bavi Shunsei at some point? I'll be right back. I'm just getting myself a fucking coat, like a fucking jacket. Be right back. Retarded magic item idea: a coat of arms. It's a magic item that's a piece of clothing, and you can use an action to sprout a pair of arms that you can freely control for it for 1 minute, and then you have to take a long rest before you can do it again. I don't know why I randomly came up with that. Don't question me. The foremost issue in my mind was the appearance of Sorako-B. During the first lesson of the day, I sat in my seat, lost in thought. From what Sorako-B said this morning, she was Sorako's ally. But I didn't know if I could take that at face value. She appeared before me while Sorako was asleep, meaning she had her own will and goals. Honestly, it almost felt like I had another étoile at my side. Couldn't predict what she would do. I'd find out her motives as soon as possible, or get rid of her if need be. Also, there is one other thing I had to worry about.
おはよう、成田。
As usual, Taiki Mikado sat by my side like it was his designated seat. His maid stood by him. Still didn't know his motives either. Most reasonable and likely scenario was that he was sent to investigate me by Kurofune. He often stared at me with a piercing gaze. But was that really it? Taigi used to be a silent boy who had a fiery passion inside. At the very least, he never looked this disinterested.
考えるな。理由を問うのは余計なことだ。必要なのは、帝大義がどのような懸念になるのか。第2幕は、これまでのところ順調。残る仇は3人。奴らにふさわしい末路をくれてやるまで、邪魔されるわけにはいかない。
Stopped that train of thought, focused on the class, and heard the beautiful talk of the maidens.
この間、超ムカつくブログがありました。ラーメンにバター入れたがるやつはしねえ。
腹が立つので掲示板荒らしする寸前でサクに超怒られてしまいました。
ところ相手構わず噛みつくけだものか、お前は。
I don't know why my ear hurts. My earlobe specifically.
サク、朝食欲なかったみたいだけど、平気？ご飯お茶碗に2杯しか食べないなんて。
いいの。ダイエット中なの。
うん。全くもって素晴らしい。学園なる制度は美を司る神の作りたもうた至宝に違いない。
Sitting in the classroom, observing the beautiful thighs and collarbones, napes, and vivacious bodies of girls had become a part of my daily routine. Sorako obviously stood among the friendly maidens. Her halo allowed her to see others' wounds. Since she couldn't control the power, she saw what all her friends wanted to hide most.
彼女たちも大したものだ。
In my eyes, there didn't seem to be any hint of hostility or wariness between them. In fact, I only saw pure familiarity. Couldn't tell whether the souls of their friends must have trust in each other, sympathy as fellow HMIs, or the readiness to accept each other as monsters. However, even as an outsider, I knew that the road that led to this relationship was not a simple one.
美しきかな、友情。
誰もが彼女たちのように振る舞えるのかな。
Taigi spoke as if reading my mind. She looked firmly ahead, and it seemed like he didn't really care about his own words.
大義も HMI だ。理解者は欲しくないのかね。
他人を本当の意味で理解する方法はないよ。
He had a point. After that, Narita also had no need for someone who understood him.
同じような問題はこのスクールにおそらくいくつもある。眠る不発弾のように。君はどうかな、成田真理。あらゆるハローを前にしても聖人君子でいられるだろうか。
大義はどうかね。秘密の一つもない人間はいないというのが通説だが。
もちろん僕はただの人間だとも。
He avoided answering properly, but he was not wrong. His words spoke of how difficult it was to manage a 200-strong group of HMIs. There were probably a few cases like Soroko's in the academy. Not everyone could live the way the Etoiles did. The relative peace of the academy was merely a front that hid a delicate balance that was on the verge of collapse. I had no choice but to admit that Kurofune Mikado's skills had kept this fragile balance alive. I stopped mulling over my thoughts and focused on the endless exchange between the crowns once more. The conversation had taken a dark turn.
もう終わったことを蒸し返すのはやめなさい。
For whatever reason, the main subject of their conversation was the classmate who had vanished into thin air, Mitri Kabutoyama.
でも何も言わずにいなくなるのは変だってサクだって言ってたでしょ。あれ以来メールの返事だってないし。
Sorako put a finger on her lips and furrowed her brow, a feminine gesture that contrasted her boyish uniform.
あいつはついていけなくなったんだろ。それでやめた。
Tomo spat out those words in a rough manner, her legs dangling on the desk in front of her. With enough observation, one could clearly tell that despite her delinquent image, she had a sense of modesty and took care to protect it. In normal circumstances, she never would have thrown out her legs and put herself at risk of having her panties exposed, which was right, unfortunately. Today was different, however. She gave off the aura of a wild animal trying to put on a display of intimidation.
やめるって思い出しましたが、やめるのやって字はどうして舌が辛いって書くんですかね。ブータン人かよ。
ブータン料理って辛いのか？
辛いですよ。唐辛子にチーズかけて焼いただけとかいう料理もあるとか。
Compared to the other three, Iru seemed unaffected. She acted about the same as ever over the course of the last 2 weeks. Iru wasn't very expressive, so it was hard to read how she truly felt. For all I knew, she actually didn't care about what happened. The ground's relationships were complex. Since they were 12th grade HMIs, Shinri and Narita didn't have the option of ignoring them. Had to be careful around them, no matter how large the dam could be brought down by a hole as wide as a needle. Tamo ended the conversation, stood up, and went to the hallway with an aura of dejection about her. Started to call out to her, but one was strong enough to do it.
どこ行くの？もうすぐ授業始まるよ。
用事。すぐ帰ってくる。遅れたら空子が適当に言い訳しといてくれ。
In the end, no one stopped her as she left the classroom.
玉緒ちゃん、最近一人でどっか行っちゃうことが多いね。夕食に間に合わないこともあるし。
元が野良犬みたいなキャラですから、どこか遊び場所を見つけたのでしょう。
Sorako tried to play the devil's advocate again, but when faced with the gloomy atmosphere, she had no choice but to fall
やっ
silent.
ぱり仕方ないよね。
そうね。いつまでも終わったことにこだわるよりも、クラウンの責務を果たしましょう。私たちにはやるべきことが多いのだから。
Sorako slumped her shoulders and walked back to her seat. Our eyes met. It was an accident. I was looking at her.
成田くんは気にならない？みとりちゃんのこと、それに玉緒ちゃんのこととか。
私はサクと同じ意見だよ。人の生きる道はそれぞれだ。振り向くよりも前を向いて己の道を模索し進む方がずっとためになる。特に麗しい乙女はそうであるべきだ。
Words didn't match my thoughts, but they still came out naturally.
だよね。
However, there were certain things in this world you had to do before moving forward. Shinri and Narita had been waiting for this weekend for a while. He had informed me that a certain man would arrive at the academy, and so I waited for him with bated breath, like a young boy about to meet the superstar he idolized. The academy was a boarding school designed to create true nobles. Though we had no lectures on weekends, the students didn't rest. Some took some supplementary lessons, some developed their halos. Even those who did rest did it with great diligence and care. Everyone had a goal and everyone worked hard for it.
はい、成田くん。お茶をどうぞ。
After breakfast, I didn't feel like staying in my room, so I went to the living room. The timing coincided with Sorako leaving her room, so she prepared some black tea for me. At the moment, Iru and I resided on the first floor, while Sako, Sorako, and Tamo lived on the second. There were in fact 4 rooms on the second floor, but the last one belonged to Mitri, who had essentially been replaced by Taigi Mikado. It wasn't rare for Sorako to appear with perfect timing. If anyone ever lazed around in the living room, she appeared as though she felt their presence.
ダージリン。てらいのない風味がよく出ていて素晴らしい。あらゆる物事で基本こそ奥義に通じる。この味を引き出せるのは実に見事なものだ。
別にそこまですごいことじゃ。あ、この前焼いたクッキーの残りがあるけど、成田くん食べる？
いただこう。
After preparing her own tea, Sorako sat on the sofa before me. Silence followed and continued for a while as the scent of tea and the cracking of cookies filled the living room.
今日は休日だというのに、皆姿が見えないのだね。
I don't know what's like causing this weird stinging on my neck. Speaking of things I didn't see, Sorako B, Sorako's other half, hadn't made an appearance since her introduction. Was that truly all she'd wanted to say? know if she was telling the truth, even though she wasn't present. She was listening in on our conversation. Mostly it was interesting in its own right.
休日だからだよ。休みの時にやることはやっぱりそれぞれ別だよね。
それは興味深いな。我が学友諸君は一体どのように休日を過ごしているのだろう。
サクは真面目で授業の予習とかかな。でも気晴らしによくお菓子を焼いたりジムで体を動かしたりしてるよ。
The gym was in the facilities building, which was located between the school building and the research building. It had a gymnasium, indoor pool, and a tennis court. Students could freely use it. They often did.
ジムかね。健康的な汗、躍動する死体、そして揺れるオーマン、素晴らしい。私もご商売に預かりたいものだ。
ご商売というと、例えばグラウンドを一緒に走ったり？
プールがいい、特にいい。何よりもジャパニーズスクール水着は完璧なるフェチズムの体現としてブリュッセルでも名高い完成度だみたい。ぜひとも実物をこの目で。
成田くん、どうしてそんなに変態なのかな。
違う、それは断じて。この成田真理はいついかなる時でも美への信奉を捨てされないだけなのだよ。豊満のもたらす奇跡ほど完璧なものはこの世にありえないのだ。
それを完全無欠に変態って言うんだよ。
I noticed undeserved accusations and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 11 in the morning. Everything had succeeded accordingly to schedule. Shinzen Katusragis was meeting with Kurofune Mikado at that exact moment. Sorako's father, Shinzen Katusragis, was a man of unparalleled greed. Satisfied with the position and wealth he'd amassed, he often met with Kurofune to gain even greater fortunes. Specifically, he aimed to meet those who supported Kurofune. Kurofune Mikado was a powerful member of a certain group that funded the academy, among other things. The Vril Society. That was their name. They were a secret society that had formed in the mid-20th century Europe. And Shinzen Katusragis was doing his damnedest to become a member. Normally, Shinzen Katusragis wouldn't have even stood a chance. The Vril Society only admitted elites from political, artistic, and scholarly fields. The fact that a CEO of a major American IT company tried to join but was rejected was testament to show just how strong their chosen flock creed remained. Thus, Shinzen Katusragis relied on Kurofune to make the impossible possible. As partners in crime, they were, after all, deeply connected. Oh, what unbefitting greed. Was excellent. I would use it to my advantage. He would soon learn that those who overstepped their bounds always faced great retribution. He would soon learn that the sin he'd committed had not vanished and received punishment, even if it didn't come from the hands of the rightful ruler of heaven and earth.
どうかした？成田くん、笑ってる。
いや、少し思い出し笑いをしていたところなのだよ。
For a moment, the girl before me looked like a child I used to see running through the fields. I subdued the memory by reciting an oath I swore to myself countless times. An act of revenge, Shindri Narita. Why have you lived these 7 long years? Remember the hell of that day. Summon your hatred and rage. Complete the solemn prayer for the dead.
本当にどうかした？今度は怖い顔してる。
いや、そう、この間害虫を退治した時のことを思い出していてね。思い出し怒りというところなのだよ。
I stealthily clawed into the wound on my right hand with my left. The pain finally brought peace to my thoughts. The AR interface displayed an icon that indicated the visitor had arrived. Looked at the entrance and sure enough saw someone at the door. It was a bit late, which was probably due to this conversation with Kurofune taking longer than expected.
お父さんだ。
Sorako checked the dorm's management layer on her device. Looked at my own device and the feed on the camera at the entrance showed the one and only Shinzen Katusragis. It was a visit I expected, and one Sorako could never have predicted. Once we let him into the living room, he charged up to Sorako.
おー、ソラコ、久しぶり、しばらくだったね。ソラコ、元気だったかい？だからこんな量じゃなく、学園に直結の新しい家を建てようと。
お父さん、成田くん見てるから、落ち着いて。
The father stood there and embraced her tightly. However, his appearance puzzled Sorako. A visit to the dorm wasn't in Shinza and Katsuragi's schedule, but I heard from Saku and the others that he never missed a chance to see his beloved daughter. Also, this time I was at the dorm too. After our talk, he must have looked into me. Discovered Shinri Narita's reputation in Europe. In Shinza and Katsuragi's eyes, Shinri Narita was a valuable business partner who could give him the push he needed to enter the real society. I had a feeling he would not miss a chance to get on my good side, and I was right.
そうは言っても久方ぶりの親子の再会じゃないか。外れることでもないだろうに。おお、ソラコ、ソラコ。
He just fucking stands up and caps his ass like, what the fuck did you just do? Sorry, I lost control there for a second. My apologies. Let's move on with our day now, shall we? That's not something you say after you just killed somebody. That's my dad.
でも今日はどうして？
ちょっと用事で近くに寄ってね。
The father's intense embrace left Sorako perplexed, but she had a happy, wry grin on her face. It all felt a little excessive, but their relationship was truly dazzling. Satisfied with the long embrace, Shinzan turned to me at last. He approached me with a pleasant smile, though it looked completely different than the one he gave his daughter.
ちょうどいい。私も一度詳しく話をしたかったところなのだよ。以前相談させてもらった建て替えの件なのだが。
Put on a facade that was humble to the point of being creepy. He kissed up to the strong only to betray them the moment they showed weakness. A true vulture among men.
その件なのですが、ミスター。取り急ぎ見立ててみたのですが、かなり大規模な工程になります。
そのことなら何も心配はない。
He looked confused for a moment, but then he simply nodded in agreement.
なるほど、なるほど。そうおっしゃっていただけるのであれば何の心配もない。それでは一度詳しい見積もりについてご相談したいのですが、ここは学園の寮ですので、そこで、我が自慢の屋敷に招待したいのですが、ご足労いただいてよろしいでしょうか、ミスター成田。
良い考えだ。自分で建てた屋敷なのだと噂には聞いているよ。桂木デザイン、この目で確かめさせてもらうとしよう。では、そうだな、来週末で良いかね。
おお、問題ありませんと。説得ですが、最高の艦隊をさせていただきますよ。案内は空子にさせますので、我が社を選んでいただき、誠にありがとうございます。
I'm starting to feel like his halo is some kind of suggestion as well, honestly. His halo is just guaranteed nat 20 rolls on charisma checks. And after some small talk, our discussion ended.
そういえば先月の夜会でお父さんに何かを頼んでいたよね。
手持ちの物件の処分を。君の父上の腕を見込んでね。
まったくです。信頼は最高です。私を信頼していただければ何一つ問題はありません。では空子、ミスター成田にくれぐれも粗相のないようにな。
はい。
Sorako seemed confused by her father's money-grubbing attitude, but she saw him off to the entrance all the same. I watched the father and child leave, squinting my eyes into sharp blades. That vomit-inducing exchange with Shinzan was merely a means to an end. My plans were proceeding well. The man danced on strings like a worthless puppet, just as I'd wanted him to. It was finally time for the second act to begin. Shinzan Katsuragi planned to make him taste despair befitting a traitor. His cruel end would come once he realized the weight of his sin. A week passed. As promised, I received an invitation to the Katusragis mansion. Soroko and I got permission to leave the academy and hopped on the car that had come to pick us up. Everything was going according to plan. The Katusragis were a Mikado branch family that had left before any other. They were the Mikado's treasurers, as well as their point of contact with the outside world. After mingling with commoners for many years, their blood grew thin. Starting with the previous generation, they had become little more than normal humans themselves. And with that change came selfish human desires. Mikados often chastised them. It was only natural that Shinzan, the new head of the Katusragi family, started to think them a nuisance.
そしてあの男は裏切った。帝本家の人間を皆殺しにする陰謀に加担した。
Atisha investigated and she found that Shinzan Katsuragi's mansion was located on a border between neighboring prefectures. It wasn't a place you could go on a whim. Thankfully, the seats to the large German car Shinzan had provided felt rather pleasant, making the long journey completely painless. We eventually left the car and Sorako led me to her home.
成田くん、ここです。
うん、これは見事な邸宅だ。和のもたらす静けさと調和は世界に冠たる芸術と言っても過言ではないものだよ。
The building was surrounded by a verdant bamboo grove and it had a mountainous forest as a backdrop. It felt rather modern, but the building was so luxurious you could mistake it for a temple. Beyond the gates, there was a garden full of stones and trees, as well as the main building and several detachments. This was Katsuragi design. Shinzan Katsuragi was renowned in the industry for his bold design, which incorporated traditional Japanese sensibilities. The fact that art like this had sprung from that vulture's mind made me question the workings of the human brain.
ソラコは昔からこの土地にいたのかね?
Asked a question I knew the answer to full well.
昔は他の土地にいたんですが、何年か前に引っ越してきました。父がここの土地を気に入って。
Soroko's tone had changed as soon as he entered the gates. He seemed a lot more tense than usual. Strained was probably the best word for it. Sorako led me deeper in. We passed the garden by walking on the stones, taking in the scent of the moth orchids all the while. Then we traveled through a hallway sided by the shoji until we arrived at a reception area that mixed Western and Japanese stylings. The glamorous reception area looked quite odd. The wallpapers and small pieces were all Japanese, but there was a carpet spread out on the floor, as well as a luxurious table and sofas in the middle. The wood flooring had peeked in from the neighboring room. The wood flooring that peeked in from the neighboring room made it feel strange, but not bad. Deeper in, I saw tokonoma, which displayed Japanese vases, hanging scrolls, hunting rifles, and swords. The raised floor there was all tatami. I assume that's what they're talking about. This was probably designed by Shinzan himself. It was actually my first time seeing a tokonoma in a Western room. Couldn't help but praise him for incorporating it so well.
人間とはつくづく不思議なものだね。
父を呼んできます。少しだけ待っていてください。
I sunk into the soft sofa. As I sunk into the soft sofa, she presented me with a Japanese tea in a black cup. It seemed she'd prepared it herself.
急ぐ必要はないよ。せっかく一日の外出許可を取ったのだから、ゆるりとこの庭でも眺めながら待っていよう。
わかりました。では、落ち着いて呼んできます。
そうしてくれたまえ。
Sorako quickly turned around and walked off down the hallway. She always seemed overly considerate in the academy, but it was worse in her own home. She really did have a tendency to needlessly overburden herself. A while later, I heard orderly footsteps and Shinzan Katsuragi entered the room.
いやー、今日はご足労おかけしました。どうもどうも、ミスター成田。
Another person stood close behind him.
はじめまして、ミスター成田。桂木の妻、タマでございます。以後、どうかお見知りおきを。
She's also gonna die. She was a middle-aged woman clad in traditional Japanese clothing who looked far too thin. I assumed she was quite the beauty in her younger years, but she was now too bony for that. With that, Shinzan's wife backed away. She acted nonchalant, but I could tell that she was evaluating me. Shinzan Katsuragi sat down on the sofa on the other side of the table. Sorako sat at his side, placing some distance between them. Odd, considering the fact that Shinzan and I wished to discuss business. She had no reason to be here. I highly doubted that someone as meek as Sorako insisted on that. Which meant someone had insisted.
では早速詳細を聞かせてもらうとしよう。
Shinzan's words, thick with greed, went in one ear and out the other. One of the reasons for that was because hearing his cheerful voice made me want to vomit. The other was Sorako Katsuragi. I looked at the girl who remained seated at her father's side. Sorako used to be more free-spirited. Though as bright as the sun, she was cheerful enough to be compared to a sunflower. How had she changed so much? She dressed like a man and though not quite an introvert, she never put herself forward. Instead, she spent a lot of time and effort worrying about the needs of others. I couldn't see the link between her past and present. I was certain she knew nothing of her father's sin. In that case, the cause of her change in behavior had to be her mother. Soroko's real mother was Shinzan Katsuragi's lover. Or, in other words, a mistress. Shinzan had probably caused quite a commotion by bringing an outsider, and a bastard child at that, to the Mikado village. But it no longer mattered at this point. In her younger years, Sorako was raised by the main family. Due to their roles, her parents rarely returned to the village, so she spent most of her time with the Mikado heir and his little sister. I'd met Soroko's mother a few times. She was born in the United Kingdom and had blonde hair and blue eyes. They were first in the Mikado village, so to a child, they seemed like a precious treasure. She'd visited the village a few times, and based on her interactions, I knew she was too good for Shinzan. She'd passed away many years ago, and Shinzan and his wife, Tama, had been forced to take Sorako in because they had issues conceiving a child of their own. I had no idea what happened afterwards. I could tell she'd changed a lot, but I pushed those thoughts aside. Shinrin Narita had something to do, and his actions would result in the tragic downfall of the Katsuragi family, therefore causing Sorako immense pain. However, I would never regret the blood drawn. Shinrin Narita was an avenger, a wicked man driven mad by a grudge. Mercy had no chance of moving my heart. Once a decent pause came, I stood up.
失礼。手洗いをお借りしたいのだが。
はいはいはい。それでしたら、ソラコ、ミスター成田を案内して差し上げなさい。
He gave his daughter that order, then forced a smile again.
では、成田くん、こちらへ。
Followed Sorako out of the room. Once the guest exited, Tama, who had been listening in from the neighboring room, entered the
あの
scene.
方、成田でしたっけ？ずいぶん大層なお大臣だとか。
ああ、そうだ。調べてみて驚いた。去年ヨーロッパの社交界に突然現れた異端児で、あちらの国ではミスター・ストレインジと呼ばれる結構な時の人だそうだ。莫大な資産と異端の経営手腕の持ち主で、ほんの数ヶ月の間に欧州経済界にその人ありと言われるようになったとか。成田という名前から日本人らしいと言われていたが、めったに人前には出ないせいで顔を知る者も限られている。
そんなあやふやな方を信用してよろしいんですの？
ああ、そう思うだろう。ところがだ、ミスター成田は人脈も並ではない。気難しいので有名なウッドマン公が大のお気に入りで後見人に立っているという。
それでは本物なのですね。
ああ、本物も本物、極めつけだよ。この桂木新山に舞い降りてきたとびっきりの幸運だ。なんとしてもミスター成田に取り入るんだ。そうすれば。
His voice filled with so much bliss that would you expect him to start licking his lips.
あなた、何かいい手はございますか？
そうだな。あのご人、さっき私と話をしている最中も空子の方ばかり見ていたが。
それは好都合じゃありませんこと。あの化け物を気に入ってくださったというのなら、あてがってみたらいかがです？
いや、あの娘ではかえって粗相をしでかして機嫌を損ねてしまいかね。そうなれば元も子もない。他の方法がいい。
Yeah, someone murder him, please.
そうですか。ま、他にも方法はいくらでもありますか。まだ若いお方ですし。
まあな。
強欲な愚か者どもめ。
I heard their conversation from the edge of the garden. The distance would have been too great to eavesdrop for most people, but it was child's play to me. I pretended to leave for the bathroom, then found an opening I could use to slip into the garden. Sorako stood at a distance out of consideration, so sneaking out was a simple task. Silently walked around the mansion and confirmed the existence of the security I had already seen on the blueprints I'd acquired. Then, after finishing some other preparations, I heard an unexpected exchange.
欲に目がくらみ、娘まで道具扱い。心底安心した。裏切り者桂木新山。よくぞこの7年、以前と変わらぬ抱きすべき腐肉あさりのままでいてくれた。
After I returned, we continued the seemingly pleasant chat.
ところで、今夜はミスターを迎えるために腕によりをかけさせ珍味を用意したのですよ。夕食をご一緒にいかがですかな。
それはぜひともご商売に預かりたいところだが、私も学生の身分だ。学園に戻らなければならないのでね。あまり遅くなるのは。
いや、私たちの信仰の証にぜひとも。そうだ。それでしたら今夜はうちに泊まっていかれればいい。そうでしょう。
それはスクールには外出許可が必要ですから。
それなら空子、電話の一つも入れればいいだろう。そうしよう。そうだろうな。
She looked perplexed, so I spoke up to help her out of her predicament.
では、お言葉に甘えて、本日はこの屋敷に宿泊させてもらうことにしよう。学園には私から一報を入れて許可をもらうということでどうかね、空子。
はい。成田くんがそうおっしゃるのでしたら。
Shinzan laughed with so much mirth that it depressed me. I feel like I'll read another line with that kind of like rhythm, I guess you would say. Like like was one with mirth that it depressed me. Like with that kind of like, I guess, tonal development. I don't fucking know what to call it. The many delicacies he prepared were quite luxurious, all worthy of his pride. It was rather clever of him to serve Japanese food to match the aesthetic of the mansion. Shinzan Katusragis clearly had a talent for sniffing out the wealthy and getting on their good side. After the meal, I was led to the guest room. It was also decorated in a traditional Japanese style. I wish I could tell I could tell he'd poured a lot of money into it, even though it was a guest room. The air of elegance matched the rest of the mansion.
父が無理言ってすみません。
Sorako bowed to me as she apologized.
どうして空子が謝るのかね。君の父上に無礼があるとしても、それはあくまでも彼の問題だ。なるほど、確かにいささか羽目を外しすぎる人物らしいが、応用な私を悩ませるほどではないよ。それにしても、この家に戻ってからの空子は肩に力が入りすぎているような気がするのだが、もう少し普段のように気楽に過ごしてみてはどうかね。
それは、そんなことは別に。
そうなのかね。何か気を張っていなければならない事情でもあるのかと思ったが、気のせいならば何も問題はない。だが、あえて言うなら、せっかく学園で机を並べて学ぶ学友同士だというのに、二人の時までそんな堅苦しい物言いをされてしまうと、繊細な私は傷ついてしまう。
それは違うから、そういうのじゃなくて、僕、成田くん。
She panicked and shook her head, which seemed typical.
いつも通りの君で、良きかな良きかな。
もう成田くん、やっぱり変だ。
私は自分の思うまま、正直な心を言葉にしているだけだよ。言葉とは、望めばいくらでも偽ることができる。
そうかな。でもそういう風に言ってくれるのはすごく嬉しい。
先ほど手洗いに立った時に見たのだが、なかなかに見事な庭だった。少し見せてもらっても構わないかね。
どうぞ。
I said that to myself just to give myself some time to relax and think, but my words on the beauty of the garden were no lie. It was a traditional Japanese garden with a pond in the middle and garden stones and shrubs all around. The one part of it was a rock garden. There I saw gravel made to look like water, which was most likely inspired by Rionji and island-like garden stones surrounded by twisting pines. There were no trees anywhere within the confines of the garden, making it feel like a wide, ever-expanding system of mountains and valleys. Some were most close. If it was noon, I surely would have seen the greenery covering the surrounding mountains and a blue sky with clouds dotted around it. The contrast would have been quite beautiful.
ジャパニーズ借景か。
借景だね。園庭の方が定期的に手入れに来てお手入れしてくれてるんだって。
日本という国の風情を庭という小さな世界に余すところなく表現する見事な手腕だ。
Sorako actually seemed out of place in a mansion. The existence of a blonde, blue-eyed, foreign-looking girl in men's clothing starkly contrasted the pure Japanese construction and scenery.
どうして制服を着替えないのだね。
She reacted to my minor question as though she'd been struck by lightning. The decision made sense earlier when we planned to return to the academy, but it was strange to not change into casual clothing at that point.
それは。
My question troubled her. It felt like I touched on a sore
そういえ
spot.
ばまだ男装の理由を教えてもらっていなかったな。君が好きでそうしているというのであれば、口を挟むことは何もないのだが。
I had to ask that, otherwise I had no hope of ever discovering her burdens. Why did it even matter? I kind of thought it was unnecessary for Shinri Narita now. Sorako remained frozen in place, shaking like she had a fever, then spoke with pauses, as though she was conveying her words to her phone with a bad signal.
これはお父さんが昔男ならよかったのにって。
つまらないことを尋ねてしまったようだ。謝罪しよう。
There were a few rooms with the lights on beyond the garden. Shinzan was probably still awake.
無様な男め。帝の人間を殺し尽くしただけでは、
Would have been child's play for me to kill Shinzo Katsuragi that night while making it look like an accident. However, he did not deserve such a merciful end. Revenge was a solemn prayer for the dead, and so his death had to match the tragedy of that night 7 years ago. plan to take everything from him and give him a direct fitting end after making him experience pure despair.
楽しみにしていろ、桂木新山。
さて、それよりもだ。
Sensing something strange in the toe, and I turned around and saw glasses on Sorako's face.
お前、どういうつもりだ？ちょっとダメだよ、いきなり。安心しろ。成田は私のことは知っている。驚いたりはしない。いつの間に。でもそれって。いいから、少しだけ私に任せろ。
Single face underwent some stark changes in a matter of seconds. She looked like a different person, not just in terms of expression, but impression as well. No, they truly were different people. Their personalities resided in that body.
いきなり君の方が出てくるとは、さすがの私も予想外だった。この間の告白は二人だけの秘密ではなかったのかね。
秘密？何それ？空子をからかうのはやめろ。それよりも、さっきの答え、まだ聞いてないぞ。どういうつもりだ？
どういうつもり？
わざわざこの家にやってきて、泊まって帰るだろ。お前、何を考えてる？あの連中がろくでもないクズなのは、分かってるだろ。
You imagine how fucking funny it would be at this point if you just went like, I'm 100% aware, and I will 100% clean up. She was clearly... I don't know why it's just... it's something I let out sometimes. I don't fucking know. She was clearly referring to Shinzan and Tama Katusragis. I did agree that they were scum, but I wasn't sure if a child should call her parents that. But then again, while they were Soroko's parents, the same couldn't be said for Sorako-B. Because if she was telling the truth, she only had memories past the moment she'd emerged. She had no past, so she had no reason to feel filial piety. Or could you really call either of them her biological parents? They were basically strangers to her.
私は親しくしている学友の父親を信頼して仕事を依頼した。今日この家を訪れたのはその相談のためだ。泊まっていくのは桂木氏の申し出を受けたまでのこと。何もおかしくはない。
信頼してか。そこまで白々しく言えるのは大したやつだよ。
Oops, she pierced me with the gaze as she said that.
私は空子の味方だ。お前が空子を不幸にするのならただじゃおかない。
It was hard to discern Sorako-B's true intentions. She revealed her identity to me and showed me herself twice. But why? No, it was because she looked exactly like Sorako, but I felt the senses I sharpened over the past 7 years dull around her. Did that mean Sorako-Katsuragi was a poison dagger to Shinri Narita? Sorako-B was truly Sorako's ally. She would do everything in her power to prevent Shinri Narita's revenge. If she knew I was after Shinzan's life, she would certainly stop me. All my carefully laid out plans would be rendered useless if she so much as spoke a words of them to Shinzan. And if that happened, Kodafune would also learn the truth in no time. Enacting revenge was near impossible if they were all on guard.
君の言葉、肝に銘じておくとしよう。
I had to in order to prepare for the worst case scenario. She discovered what Shinri Narita was. No, I was certain that she would. So I gathered my resolve to prepare for that very moment. After saying what she said, Sorako took off her glasses, then placed them in a case that went in her pocket. Thus, as if freed from possession, Sorako returned to normal. Nah, that definitely wasn't normal. She turned as red as a boiled potato and ran around the garden in a panic. Perhaps she had turned back into the old energetic Sorako.
成田くん、ちょっと用事を思い出したっていうか、できたから後でお風呂の用意ができたら呼びに来ますから、部屋でゆっくりしてください。さよなら。
That was fast. Once she got tired of all the running, she suddenly looked up, said that without a single pause, and ran into the mansion. I was left all alone.
つくづく乙女ハートとは誠に予想のつきがたいものだね。
I wonder what the other Sorako thought of that reaction. Well, I knew she was laughing heartily. She returned in a little under an hour.
成田くん、お風呂沸いたから案内します。
Like the rest of the mansion, the bath was decorated in a traditional Japanese style as well. The wooden design gave it a mature look, but it was obviously colored by preferences of a true hobbyist.
昨今ではすっかり日本風呂というのも少なくなってしまったと聞くのが残念だ。この古風な感じが実に良いのだよ。
Baths were an important measure of gauging a culture. Personally, I disliked Western baths and showers. My true relaxation came from spreading yourself out in a large wooden bath.
成田くん。
Silent footsteps and a stifled voice. Sorako seemed to be in the changing room.
何か用かね？湯加減ならばちょうどいい。何から何まで行き届いている。うん。そんなところでかしこまっておらず。入ってきて背中でも流してはくれないかね。
Fucking hands are freezing. I'm gonna turn to like an old fucking. Oh. Can't play it like this. Except I can. Motherfucker, in this game it also just gets rid of the brief pause, then.
はい。その準備ちゃんとしてきてるから大丈夫だし。
一体何の準備だろうか。
Her response seemed odd, but it did prove the worth of always speaking my mind.
お邪魔します。呼ばれたので入ってきました。
I assumed that was supposed to be a CG here.
いかん
He's like, this is bad! I was so moved that I almost died! The man's almost had a heart attack! Sorako wasn't naked. She was in her school swimsuit. It was heretical to wear it in a bath, but to shun in a divine light.
水着ジャパニーズスクール水着それもいわゆるオールドタイプではないかね
he is very pumped about this.
この間、成田くんが見たいって言ってたから。でももう古いやつは手に入りにくくなってて、サイズ合ってないから恥ずかしいんだけど。
She was as embarrassed as she would have been if she was naked. She was right, it wasn't the right size for her. But part of that was because she was too large around the chest.
どうかした？
私としたことがあまりの出来事に二度死に瀕しかけるとは。
The fact that she normally hid all this under a men's uniform made the change feel the more liberating. Soroko's voluptuous breasts pushed on the cloth. The already small Japanese swimsuit bit into her skin here and there, especially at the shoulders and the nether regions.
この水着、何かおかしいかな。
ソラコ、サイズが窮屈な服とサイズが大きすぎてすぐにずり落ちてしまう服があるとしよう。君は哲学的にどちらを着るべきだと思う？
哲学的？よくわからないけど、僕なら大きい方かな。それでベルト。
小さい方なのだ。理由は特にない。
理由ないんだ。
素晴らしい。だがそれはいけない。小さいサイズを着ているソラコは正しい。何もおかしくはない。自信を持ってもっと近くでよく見せてくれたまえ。
Sorako B is just probably like in her head like, what is she doing?
この変態、大概にしろよ。
Ah, there we go. Looking down in embarrassment, Sorako brought a beautiful form to me.
おお、ハレルヤ
Oh! Hallelujah!
おお、ハレルヤおお、ハレルヤおお、ハレルヤおお、ハレルヤおお、ハレルヤ
Let me just quick save this line. I was no pious believer, but this was a situation where I couldn't help but praise the divine.
さっきは驚いたと思うんだけど。
After gathering her courage, Sorako finally spoke her
もう
mind.
一人のことかね。ならば心配は無用だ。彼女が言ったように挨拶は済ませていたのだよ。君に言わなかったのは申し訳ないが、彼女との約束だったのでね。
それはいいんだけど、成田くん、気味悪くない？こんなの普通じゃないよね。
うん、なるほど。確かに普通ではないだろう。だが、人間にはそもそも普通などはありえないのだよ。常識とは時代と環境が定める最大公約数でしかない。正常と異常の区分は変化し続ける。本質的に人間はワンオフだ。互いに著しく異なっている。肉体という部品の規格こそ共通だが、一部を交換しようとしただけで免疫反応という拒絶が起きてしまう。70億種の孤独な生命、それが我々だ。他人と心の形が異なるのはむしろ当然だろう。何を驚くことがあるのかね。
そうなの？
もう一人が天地に戻る悪逆の徒だというのならば、また別の問題もあるだろうが、空子の同居人はなかなかに面白い人物。私はむしろ好感を抱いているよ。
そんなこと言われたの初めて。正直驚いて、気味悪がられるって思ってたから。でも僕今すごく安心してる。ありがとう、成田くん。
礼には及ばない。
言わせて。だって成田くんはこの前も今も僕がどうしようもなくて泣きそうな時にいつでも来てくれるんだから。
この程度のことでよければ、君が心塞ぐことがあったならいつなりとも呼びたまえ。空子が笑っているのは私にとっても喜ぶべきことなのだから。
甘えることにする。困った時はきっと呼ぶからね。
うん、その時は私の微力を尽くそう。
じゃあ前を向いてください。背中流してあげる。
Sorako was far too shy to do this. Would she have done something so bold of her own will?
それは考えづらい。おそらく誰かの入れ知恵。今夜泊まる客を歓待せよと命じられてのことに違いない。
何か言った？
安心したまえ。もちろん何も言っていないとも。
何が安心なのかよくわからないけど、わかった。
なんと哀れな。あのような強欲な親を持ってしまったばかりに。
だが断らない。
Would any man ever refuse such an act? Nay, I say!
では、できるだけ密着して流してくれたまえ。ささやかな私の希望なのだよ。
何をいい笑顔で晴れ晴れと言ってるんだお前は。エッチ変態。もういいから今すぐ死ね。成田くん、これでいい？
おお、ハレルヤ。おお、ハレルヤ。お
Hallelujah! Oh! Hallelujah! Oh! Hallelujah! Oh! Hallelujah!
I need to put "Oh Hallelujah" in the description. I was no pious believer, but this was a situation where I couldn't help but praise the divine. Oh! Hallelujah!
人間は生きながら死んでいる。初めてそれに気づいたのはまだ小さかった頃だ。
It was a small paradise she could never forget. Back then, she felt fulfilled when she just ran around the fields with the other children. She had no mom or dad around, but never felt lonely. It was your home. There was a boy who said that, as well as a girl who clung to her and asked her to play with her. Yeah, the boy didn't talk much, but he was always kind to her. Then he died. Her father told her that the mansion had burned to the ground. The boy, his sister, their parents, everyone in the mansion died. Normally she would have been there too. She only survived because she stayed at her father's place by chance. Everyone knew, and everyone she knew, and everyone who knew her dad, everyone she knew and everyone who knew her had disappeared. So Katusragi's paradise came to an end. After waiting until Narita fell asleep, she went to the reception room where she saw her stepmother.
それで何があったの？ちゃんと見えたんでしょうね。あの成田って男の傷は。
Sorako had a special power, a halo that let her see people's wounds. Romeo and Juliet types, ones that influenced the mind, were very rare. But Sorako's was especially imprecise and not exactly powerful. Her influence didn't go beyond seeing. Sorako often thought that she'd become an étoile by mistake, though that only applied to the academy system. Within normal society, Sorako Katsuragi's power was a true poison. Abnormality easily made short work of normality. Since society's rules were based on what was normal, it had no defense against the abnormal. If one could sneak peeks at others' secrets, their wounds, they could easily use them to gain an upper hand. After Sorako's halo awakened, the Katsuragi used her powers many times to multiply their wealth. Tonight too, she'd been ordered to look at Narita's wounds.
お前の力で何が見えたの？さあ、おっしゃい。
はい。
The boy had died. Her mother had died shortly after. So Sorako no longer had anyone to return to.
男ならまだ役に立ったのに。
That was first thing she'd heard after being taken in by her father's family. That was why she started dressing as a man. She was a born outsider. Her hair and eye colors were different than those around her. Those she knew and those who knew her had vanished, and she no longer had any place to go. If it was the past that made her the person, Sorako. If it was the past that made the person, Sorako, who'd lost hers, was a mere wraith. She felt like someone had praised her hair when she was young, calling it beautiful. But she could barely remember it anymore. She had almost died once when she got a bad fever.
死んでしまえばいいのに。
Through the veil of illness, she heard those words. When the fever had abated, she started to see things others couldn't. She first saw her father and his body. This very being had looked like an atrocious monster covered in holes. Her stepmother had followed, and she looked no different. As if gouged and pierced, they had bleeding wounds all over them. It didn't make sense that they were still alive. She'd screamed, which led to her getting punched. Something that wounded could not possibly be alive. They'd probably be dead from the start.
私たちは生まれた時から子宮の中で腐れている。
She'd finally realized that simple fact. Humans were dead as they lived. They were lifeless puppets who did nothing but move. So she'd stopped wishing for things. Puppets had no desires after all. Upon realizing Soroko's powers, her parents instantly wanted to use it. She did as told and looked into the wounds of many people. Some were led to ruin, but she didn't feel anything. Puppets had no hearts after all. Her mother was right to name her Sorako, which meant child of the sky. No matter how they tried, humans could never reach the sky. Humans were creatures who led meaningless lives where they did nothing but look at the cold blue sky. She wasn't alive, but she was afraid to die. That was why she tried to stop thinking, to join the ranks of the empty moving corpses.
何も。
何なのよ。
ですから、大きな傷は何もありませんでした。
She responded with those words. One time in the past, when Soroko had tried to stop thinking, she had a voice.
聞こえてるか？
Soroko didn't lose herself because she stayed by her side. Not much changed when they were split into two, but Soroko endured and lived on, even if she'd wanted to stop. That was why she still remained in this
本
world.
当に？素性を隠すような男なのよ。何か目立つ秘密があるんじゃないの？
いいえ、何もありませんでした。
She'd never once held a grudge against her parents. As a person, Soroko severely lacked in the ability to hate or curse others. The reason why her parents had sent her to the academy, despite her power's usefulness, was simple. She scared them. Soroko had turned into an adult, so they were afraid that the power that exposed many secrets and led many to ruin would be directed at them next. That's why they chased her away. Even if there was no real reason to be afraid, there was logic behind the fear. In fact, the fear felt well deserved.
僕はもう子供じゃないよ。
She used to have no reason to lie. She'd always done as told. She could easily lie if she had a reason. She'd come to learn of the outside world and the academy and became an adult. She'd met Saku's group in Narita. The days when the two of her just sat idly by and this were gone.
役立たず。
Tama didn't realize that until the very end. A few days had passed. It's finally time for him to move out and act on his plan to kill Shinzan, and he's just gonna arrive and gonna shoot them in the head, and so Sorako B is just gonna stand there oh, there we go, fucking finally. Took long enough. So, who's next? What? A few days had passed. A day I prepared for yet another event, but ended up returning without any trouble. In a way, I felt disappointed. To ignore that, however, my plans were proceeding smoothly. The second act had gone silent, but was progressing at a rapid pace. The days in the academy continued to be peaceful, hiding all signs of the chaos raging below the calm surface. You could say that we gazed at the stage's curtains before they opened, though I couldn't help but note that times of such peace were rare for Shinri Narita.
今日はお弁当用意するの手間取っちゃった。寮を出るのがすっかり遅くなったね。
Everyone else had already left, but I'd stayed behind and waited for Soroko, who was still in the kitchen. This led to us arriving 30 minutes later than
講義
usual.
の開始には十分間に合う。慌てることはない。この国は豊かな四季のある得難い国だ。初夏の心地を存分に味わっていくのもいいものだよ。
I took a deep breath of the air, which was full of the scent of greenery. The academy had been built atop deforested land, and the forest near the research building was a remnant of that.
成田くん、わざわざ僕を待ってないで先に行ってくれててもよかったのに。
空子の作っていたのは私の分なのだろう。そんな君を残して一人で出発するような無粋は人種たるもののすべきことではないのだよ。それに一人での道のりは寂しいものではないかね。
そうだね。僕も成田くんと一緒に歩けて嬉しいよ。
A full smile almost brought back a fragment of the memories that had already turned to ash. This was dangerous. Light shocks ran down my neck as my instincts warned me of that fact. The Shinri Narita Katusragis was a dangerous poison. And I knew it all along. I knew about her mother's death, the fact that she'd entered her father's family, that she'd enrolled in Tenkawa Noble Academy. More importantly, I knew that I would see her if I came here to enact my revenge. The fact that she had become an Étoile Halo user was unexpected, however. Étoile grade. Though I had some close calls, Sorako had yet to realize Shinri Narita's true identity. Honest to God, I'd like to think that she, in that bath, realized what was happening and is now gonna, like, either try to talk him down, or is like, yeah, I can't really, like, deny him this. I reminisced about the sky I'd gazed up at a long time ago. I can still remember the rainbow decorating the sky after the rain. She must have suspected me. At her core, Sorako was a sharp young woman. Whenever she appeared dull or dense, it was due to her excessive consideration of others. She always put too much effort into helping others. There was also Sorako B, who was, in her own right, very sharp as well. Sorako B knew all about the unrest within Sorako. They shared memories, and even if Sorako B had none of those from Sorako's childhood, she still knew of all of the current Sorako's thoughts. Sorako had her suspicions herself, but she denied them. After all, Shunsui Mikado had died 7 years ago. As my wavering feelings drifted further into the past,
成田君
I saw Tokino Yumisi standing in the pre-morning lecture hallway, looking uncomfortable in her usual lab coat. What do you want? Seeing Sorako and I walk together made her expression shift for a moment. All people would have missed it, but Shinri Narita was too sharp, as unfortunate as it was for her. It was just a flash. Her pale face had a hint of worry on it. Something that didn't belong on a lady as cold and clever as her.
おはようございます、時野先生。
おはよう、時野女子。まだ講義まで時間があるはずだが、急ぎ足でどこへ行こうというのかね。もしや我々の時計が遅れていたのなら一大事だ。走り出さねばならない。
いえ、あなたたちの時計は正確でしょう。講義の前に用事を済ませるために急いだだけですから。
Self-control seemed nearly perfect, so I didn't see any hint of wavering within her heart.
成田君、本日放課後、北のコンパートメントまで来てください。今後について相談したいことがあります。
Worry!
それはあれかね？ジャパニーズスクールにはつきものの進路ディスカッションというやつだろうか。ならばぜひとも一度好みで味わってみたいと思っていたのだよ。
味わうほどのものであるかはともかくとして、おおよそそのようなものです。それでは放課後に。
After stating a business, Tokino Yomisa turned around and entered the pre-lecture classroom.
時野先生、一体何の用だろう。スクールは普通の学園じゃないから進路相談なんてやったりしないのに。
He just walks in. Okay, we're going to end you now. Okay, that makes sense.
何？私はこの通り特別の人材だ。教師としては常日頃から心を砕くことがあるのだろうね。主に混じることのできない好みのゆえん、慎んでお受けしよう。
そうかな。
さて、何を企んでいる？夜店時の。
Classes ended without any problems. As agreed, I entered Tokino Yomisa's compartment. There were actually 2 spaces she occupied in the academy. As the main teacher of all the 200 HMIs, she naturally had an office in the first school building, a double-S infirmary, and it was designed to look like a bleeding-edge examination room. On the other hand, the northern compartment, as it was called, was a private space in the research building. She was not only the main teacher, but also the head of HMI research, and as such, she spent her days leading the many researchers.
わざわざ校舎ではなく研究棟に呼び出すとはね。そのままに受け取れば教師としての立場でなく話をしたいということになる。魅力にあふれる年下の学生の横顔に時の女子が熟れた女の情熱を持て余したという可能性も捨てがたいか。
For a moment, I felt like I saw my dearest maid Hishia shrug like an American, but I quickly realized that was probably merely my imagination. That was my first official visit to the research building. It was located opposite from the school. It was facility area that contained the gymnasium with the pools between them. Students weren't normally allowed to enter the research building's grounds, which was separated from the school and other accessible facilities by 2 gates. At the entrance, I gave my name and student number. When security finished checking me, they handed me a temporary pass card. It had a string on it, so they put it over my neck. While here, it was necessary to have it all out at all times. As I walked through the hallway, my vision reacted to the card and showed me a guide arrow. This was the bleeding edge into info layer technology that the Academy made liberal use of. It led me to Tokino Yumi's room without me even having to ask for directions. Followed the arrow and quickly found my destination.
成田だ。お呼びにより参上した。
入ってきてください。
The electrical lock on the door opened. The compartment looked exactly the same as the one in the school building. It was probably intentional, but showed just how methodical the woman was. Tokino sat in front of her desk and looked at me with cold, sharp eyes. Oh no. It wasn't quite hostile, but it was certainly in the same vein.
まるで自慢のカナリアに近づく野良猫を見るような目で私を見るのだね。背筋が凍るが、この刺激は一種の快楽でもある。珍しい体験をさせてもらったことに感謝しよう。
あなたの趣味が悪いのはいつものことですが、おそらく今感じている感情は気のせいでしょう。
なるほど。ではそうなのだろう。ところで時の女子、話というのは何かね。
The room became still as a grave. Both of them stood at time for jokes had ended. Tokino Yumi stopped hiding her hostility. She clearly knew that I'd noticed, but continued speaking politely regardless. It seemed she'd probably cut right to the chase.
あの子に必要以上に近づかないように。
代名詞で話されても理解しがたいのだが。
I merely spoke my honest thoughts, but they made Miss Tokino raise an eyebrow. What a rare sight. This cold woman was doing her best to hide her displeasure, but it wasn't enough.
ソラコ。桂木ソラコさんのことです。
あの子が誰なのかは理解した。それでは次に理由を伺いたいものだね。スクールは理由もなく人間関係を制限するのかね。ここの学則にも友好関係や男女交際の禁止についての規則はなかったはずだと記憶しているが。
Of course, since I made a point to never read terms and conditions, I didn't read the Academy's rules either. It was merely a guess. Tokino fell silent for a moment. I could tell by her expression that it wasn't due to rage, but profound thought, which was something that suited her quite well.
彼女は貴重な人材です。
あなたの講義によれば HMI とは誰もがノーブルとなるための貴重な人材ではないのね。
当然です。私はいかなるものであれ、人間の価値は平等であり、能力や立場によって生命の重さが変わるべきではないと信じています。しかし桂木空子は特別であり、代替のない人間です。
I kept the searing rage from welling up and stifled my emotions deep inside. Words about humans being equal and having the same weight to their lives were heavy curses.
さすがは世界に冠たる学問の頂き、LSOM で史上最年少のクワドリガに選ばれた夜店時の女子。見事な高潔さだ。
The unexpected direction this conversation took made Miss Tokino look daunted.
よく知っていましたね、その名前を。普通の人間は LSOM の存在など知りませんよ。
北米にある世界屈指の学術機関。そこには世界中から天才が集い、天才による天才のためのあらゆる研究が行われているという。一説によると、あらゆる禁忌なく知識を極めようとする LSOM の内実はとても世間に公開できるものではないからだとか。私はこれでも苦労はしてきた人間なのでね、耳の良さについては多少自慢なのだよ。さて、先ほどの話に戻すとしよう、時の女子。あなたの言わんとすることがよくわからないのだが、できればもう少し説明をお願いしたい。
いいでしょう、成田真理。あなたもエトワールに選ばれた人間です。無関係ではありません。知る権利はあります。
面と向かって忌憚のない意見を聞かされるというのはなかなかに心躍る体験だ。
現段階では明かせないことも少なくありませんので、 抽象的な表現になるのは理解してください。
It's as though she gave in to me, so it somehow closed the gap between us to an extent.
承知した。
エトワールとは単純に強力なハローを制御できるノーブルに近いものではありません。それはスクールの目指す理念の体現者であり、同時にこのスクールの安全保障機構でもあります。
200人の HMI をコントロールする要ということだね。
そしていずれ選ばれる次の候補者でもあります。
Next, figurative manner of speech was her way of relaying that she couldn't say anything more. She wouldn't answer even if I asked. It was at the very least, I now knew that Kurofune Mikado, the one who had established the academy, and Tokino Yomi, an important figure in all this. I now knew that to Kurofune Mikado, the one who had established the academy, and Tokino Yomi, an important figure in all this, Toiles were more than just candidates for nobility.
時の女子の話は実に興味深い。
現時点では音無作と桂木空子が最も高い可能性を示しています。彼女たちは特別の中でもさらに一級の特別なのです。
以前空子のハローは未成熟で完全にコントロールできないと聞いたのだが、にもかかわらず彼女は次とやらの有力候補に。
なんかそんなことまで。
Ripple-like change appeared in her expression, but she quickly recomposed herself.
現時点での開発進度は問題ではありません。ハローは特に能力が安定しない成長期においては非常に繊細です。些細な心理的変化でその能力が変質してしまう場合があります。
That was why she didn't want me near Sorako-Katusragis. She didn't say that out loud, but I could tell by her hostile gaze.
成田真理、あなたはエトワールでありながらクラウンのメンバーにも加わらず学園運営にも不参加だそうですね。
サクから聞いたのかね。その通りだ。残念ながら私はこれでも忙しい身の上だ。まして時の女子も承知の通り、この学園の趣旨には賛同していないのだから、やむを得ないとは思わないかね。
あなたはこのスクールへの批判的、いえ反抗的傾向が強すぎます。あなたを6人目として招いたのは間違いだったかもしれない。
Oh, it was. You should know the extent of their errors soon enough.
話はそれで終わりかね。
成田君、私はスクールで行われていることが人類の未来に素晴らしい成果をもたらすと信じています。この夜店時乃は個人的な感情に動かされる人間ではありません。ですからそれが必要とされるならば手段を選ばないことも選択できる人間です。
よくわかっていると。
では成田君、帰ってもらって結構です。今日の話をよく覚えておいてください。
Oh, I will. Whether I take them to heart or not is a different matter, however.
今夜の特別な対話の最後に一つ質問を構わないかね。
答えられることであれば。
先ほどの話題にあった次の候補とやらとして私はどうなのか。
タイプハムレットであるあなたは次の第一級の候補とは言えません。もちろん今後の成長を含めて可能性はあります。
What was the Hamlet type again? Would be nice if there was like a glossary of like the specific terms and all that. Romeo and Juliet were the mind, like in those veins. Tempest was physical. I regret not reading Hamlet in the fucking seminar. I only read Macbeth. So I don't quite know what Hamlet was about, so I can't make any guesses what Hamlet would be based on the story, but can't tell what it is, what it would be right now. I know that they mentioned it before.
なるほど。では今後さらなる飛躍を目指して努力を重ねるとしよう。
期待しています。
So I left Miss Tokino's room. It was already dark as I walked out of the building.
成田君、今研究棟の方から来たようだけれど、何かあったのかね？
Hey, evil bastard. As I exited the research building, Mr. Shishika approached me in what looked like a chance meeting.
シシカイ教諭はどうやら研究棟へ行くようだが、この時間から仕事かね？あなたも確かここの研究職員だったな。私は一般学科とはいえ講師も兼任だからね。その分仕事が多くて嫌になるよ。よく学び、よく働く。王なる人間には日々の努力の積み重ねこそが寛容だ。たとえ歩みが目に見えなくとも、それは必ず糧となる。せいぜい励みたまえ。君のような人間からすると。
As we walked away without waiting for my response, I thought about my words and turned around.
才ある者が努力していないというのであれば、その認識を正しておこう。あなたから見た多くの者が無駄なあがきをするように、それは単に歩幅の違いでしかない。所詮人間とは身につけたものしか得られない生き物。私であれ、時の女子であれ、同じことなのだよ。
I had no intention of saying anything more, so I simply took my leave. I still don't trust a fucker.
ごちそうさま。では。部屋にいる。今日のところは早くに休ませてもらうとしよう。失礼。
自分思いますが、今の変態浮気がバレて逃げる旦那みたいで妙に慌ただしくなかったですか？
I heard something knock just now. Wait, why the fuck are there? The thing is way too fucking small and it hurts. My eyes are in pain. Ah. I don't know why, but that's just like 3 of those hanging on this clothes rack over here, along with like multiple bags that my mother made. Like I don't know if you can see it. Nah, I can't pull it quite far enough. Basically, like one of those long things where you can plug multiple things into. And turn it on and off. Like, I don't know. Extended or outlet. That's not the fucking phrase. There's also like 2 tubes of colors hanging off it, and a lamp. An overly intricate one at that. There's also a fucking Rayquaza back there. Hold on. My mom actually painted that for my older brother when we were younger. I had one of like a Palkia, if I remember correctly. Actually, still like from my younger years, there's still like this massive one with like probably like fucking 1.5 by 3 meters, like a large plane in my room with just like a bunch of Pokemon drawn onto it, but like just painted on.
タマオも最近は帰り遅いわよね。なんだか。
Sorako seemed to want to say something after dinner, but I pretended not to hear her and quickly returned to my room.
朝の時の女子とのことを尋ねたかったかもしれないが、私としたことがらしくもないが。
To Shindri Narita and Sorako Katusragis was a poisoned dagger. Now that I knew that, I had to make some distance between us to keep her from dulling my will to fight.
そうもいかないか。
If I changed the way I treated her, people were bound to assume things. The second act was already in motion. I had to avoid anything that could make a mess of the
で
situation.
はどうする成田真理。
Still had to consider Sorako B and Tokino Yomise. Too many factors were outside of my calculations. Wrong move could have proved fatal.
それでは打つ手なしではないか。
Someone knocked on my
夜
door.
更けに誰かね。
I unconsciously pictured a certain face. Got a response, but the person didn't leave either. Could have let them just in. I couldn't just let them in there, and I didn't feel any hostility. I couldn't have just let them stay there, and I didn't feel any hostility, so I opened the door, and the face I'd pictured, mixed with the shadowy visage within the darkness of the hallway, became real. And became real.
空子。今夜は何の用かね。
成田くん。
Her eyes looked strangely determined. I tried to think why, but nothing came to mind. I suggested that she sit on the sofa, but instead she lowered herself to the floor and sat on her soles, doing a so-called seiza. She didn't even take the green plush toy she liked. Instead, she simply gazed at it briefly. Her non-Japanese appearance didn't suit the traditional Japanese manner of sitting. Nevertheless, she persisted.
隠し事はしたくないので言わせてください。
今日はよくよく先の見えない話ばかりをされる日だ。いや、こちらのことだよ。気にしないでくれたまえ。
Saying that you didn't want to keep secrets was a strange preface. I guess it is pronounced, I think. I don't fucking know. Also, the fact that such a crying girl had a rather serious expression on her face was reason to believe that whatever she was going to say was extremely important. I felt like I had to fix my posture and listen closely. Thus, I followed her example and did a seiza in front of her.
聞こう。
今日時野先生から成田くんに近づくなと言われました。
She admitted that with a formal tone quite unlike her usual one. I hadn't expected that at all, and the fact that the fact that it hadn't made me realize how dull my mind was. Apparently, I wasn't myself when it came to Sorako. Tokino was a person who never held back. If she truly wanted Shindri Narita to stay away from Sorako, she would have never left it at just a warning.
先ほど私も同じ話をされたよ。
やっぱりそうですか。成田くん、研究棟に呼ばれたのはその件なんですね。
Sorako didn't seem too surprised, which was generally a sign that she knew why Tokino wanted to keep us apart. Might have been a good idea to ask about it, but I chose to first listen to what Sorako had to say.
それから母には成田くんに近づくよう。
うん、そちらは分かりやすいことだね。
They didn't even have to ask to understand her reasons. How comical. This meant their daughter to win the favor of Shindri Narita, a man who wished to bring them to
人に
ruin.
言われるまま生きるのは気楽だが人形と同じだ。私にはそんな人生は耐えられない。だから、空子。
Several things I could say, but the best option was probably among them. And the best option was probably among them. However, I spoke before I thought things
遠
through.
くへ行って自由に生きるかね。
She looked perplexed, and of course she was, since my words were both sudden and didn't seem connected to our discussion at all. I thought so myself, and I was the one who said them, so she obviously shared my feelings on the matter.
いや、そうではない。そうではないが。
Wait, that's not the one. Hold on, that's not the one. Wrong channel.
成田くんが口ごもるなんて珍しいね。
She finally spoke in her usual tone. The first smile she gave me since entering my room was as fulfilling as it had been a long time ago. Saku's smile, for example, had a piercing strength to it. Sorako had an embracing warmth. That was why I managed to find the right words.
先ほどの言葉は本気だよ、ソラコ。君は言うなれば小さな花だ。風雨を耐え忍ぶ強さはあっても、風に抗って育つ力はないのだろう。一つを信じて貫き通すのも選択だが、過ちを受け入れ、新たな道を模索するのも勇気ある選択だ。人は時に逃げ出してもいいのだと私は思っている。だからソラコ、ここに留まるのが君にとって幸福でないのなら、遠くへ行けばいい。そのための助けが必要なら、私はいくらでも手を貸そう。
成田くんも逃げ出したりする？
残念ながら私は逃げる道を選べない人間らしい。立ちふさがるものを打ち破らなければ前に進めない。
Sorako looked down as though thinking, and looked at me without a hint of hesitation or gaze.
髪とか目とかを見ていればわかると思うけど、僕は成田くんもあったあの母の娘じゃないんだ。僕は父、新山の愛人の娘です。父は義母との間に子供ができなかったので、僕の母が死んでから桂木家の子供として引き取ったんだ。正直僕の立場は桂木家ではあまり良くなかったんだけど。
What an understatement. I more or less knew how Sorako ended up at the Katusragis, since I'd looked into it before returning to Japan. Motherfucker! Just go in there! Stupid bottle! A few years after they'd taken in Sorako, Shinsei Katsuragi's business started undergoing extremely rapid growth. He destroyed much of his competition and greatly expanded his wealth. The fortune couldn't be explained by what he'd taken from Mikado alone. I'd only guessed, but assumed it coincided with Sorako's halo emerging. I didn't know the specific details of what happened in the Katsuragi household, but I was certain that Shinzan, greedy as he was, he used Sorako, took advantage of his monster daughter's power. Sorako was a more peaceful girl than most. Bringing so many people to ruin must have been hellish torture in her eyes. Not only took the lives of my innocent sister and family, but trampled all over Sorako's life. I could not tolerate that, especially from someone related to her. I felt a sudden urge to barge straight into his mansion and dispose of him after cursing him until my throat was dry. But it was too early for that, so I had to keep my emotions from shaking my composure.
僕、スクールに来てから変わることができた。父や母が僕をここに入れたのは、全寮制だから厄介払いができるぐらいのつもりだったかもしれないけど、でもここで今まで知らない世界と出会えた。
Is that with a deep sense of conviction that I hadn't expected from her? I was confused.
それはサクたちかね。
サクたちのこともそうだし、このスクールのこともそう。僕は後天性の HMI だから、最初はどうしたらいいのかわからなかった。特に母はすごく気味悪がって、力の使い方だってわからなくて。怖かった。世界はこんなに傷だらけだったんだって思い知った。触れただけで血が噴き出して、誰も彼も傷ついて。
Sorako's voice lost all emotion as it quivered.
人間は生きながら死んでいる。誰も生きてない。動いているだけで命のないテク。
He You said that as though tearing off the face of a person would reveal a mannequin made of white acrylic fiber.
でも、違うって教えられた。ここへ来て、みんなと出会って、時野さんから教わった。
She looked straight at me. Her eyes were empty no longer. There was human passion in them.
今の僕には、家に居場所がなかったとしても、別の居場所があるから。
Now is why she wouldn't run. Soroko Katusragis declared that she belonged at the academy.
そうか。君を侮ってつまらないことを言ってしまったようだ。ソラコは自分のいるべき場所をとっくに見出しているのだね。
I responded to her bright smile with a smile of my own. A smile of blessing, aimed at the blissful story she'd made for herself. As well as a smile that conveyed the joy I felt when I heard her words. Sorako was no longer suffering. She'd found peace and bliss. After 7 long years, she'd finally saved herself. However, my smile was also deceitful. Fortunately, Narita aspired to destroy the peaceful place where she belonged. No matter who would grieve, bleed, or writhe, my hand would not falter in bringing down the hammer of justice.
だから、僕、もう逃げないから、成田くん。
いや、待ちたまえ。
Sorako broke her seiza. Feeling an incoming shift in the exchange, I extended my palm forward to stop
君が
her.
何をしようとしているのか全くわからないが、とにかく今は落ち着いて待つのだ。早急な判断は身を滅ぼす。
僕、ちゃんと考えたから、それでもう逃げないって決めたから。
As I slowly backed away, not breaking my seiza, Sorako drew closer and closer. I was in a bad position, and it didn't take long for me to be against the wall.
落ち着いてこのぬいぐるみでも抱くのはどうだろう。呼吸、ゲプの呼吸法を教えよう。精神統一に効果がある。これ以上近づいたら大変なことになってしまう。
僕、ちゃんと落ち着いてる。
Our hands joined, and we pushed them towards each other. I could have easily overpowered her, but Sorako was frail, and I didn't want to hurt her.
成田くん、おとなしく僕の話を聞いて。
待ちたまえ。むしろ君の方こそ私の話を聞いてくれないか。
I don't know if she was on adrenaline or some other drug, but she seemed unexpectedly strong and refused to let go. How stubborn then again, young Sorako was also the type who always refused to budge.
エルちゃんにも言われたんだ。待ってるだけのヒロインなんて勝手にどっかに行かれたり捨てられて終わりだって。自分から攻略しないとダメだって。
俺高崎エル、こんな絡めてからこの私をここまで追い詰めるとは。
Also, I have no idea why I always try to almost accidentally say call Eru Takizawa instead of Takazaki. Honestly, God, let me just look up Takizawa. Maybe that'll clear up the fucking reason why. Takizawa. Well, none of those certainly. Or just I don't know, fucking add anime. Not Tokyo Ghoul. I'm for sure that that's not Tokyo Ghoul. Is there like a way to exclude stuff? Oh. How to exclude terms from Google search by putting a minus immediately in front of the term. That's fucking easy. Minus Tokyo minus Google. Yes. Not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one, not that one. Ah! I get it. Miss Takizawa. That one. From that manga about the... the greatest boss lady, Lady Boss Takizawa or something is the English name for the manga. I forget her name. Yeah, one of these will have the name. Seemingly not. Kyoko! That was the name. Kyoko Takizawa. Kyoko. There you go, now it's all her. That is her in an America bikini. Okay, I was not expecting... A Steam design? I wasn't expecting a fucking Steam design. The fuck? Oh well. Enough. Our hands were still joined. She pushed forward, I pushed back. She pushed forward, I pushed back. It was basically a stalemate.
こうなったらおとなしくしてくれないと大声出すよ。サクたちが来たら成田くん大変なことになっても知らないから。
なんと狡猾な。
Single lapse in my concentration made me lose my balance and we both fell to the floor. I was on my back while Sorako above me. Her earnest eyes met mine. I felt her pounding heart through her skin. I knew this warmth and sound long ago. It was a fragment of the small yet unforgivable paradise. I reached for her hair as if it were only natural.
でできた雫のようだね。
そんな褒め方するの成田くんだけだよ。
みんな物の価値が分かっていないのだよ。
Oh, how late I was. It was a simple fact that I'd known since long ago, but I kept it sealed and only realized the truth at that exact moment.
正直に言おう。私は君のことを大切に思っているよ。誰よりも。この世界に残ったたった一つの宝石のように。
It seemed even more obvious when I voiced my thoughts. It was a faint feeling that I had even 7 years ago, despite the weight of the time that had passed, and despite all the irreversible changes that alone hadn't faded.
僕も成田くんのこと考えただけでこんなにドキドキして止まらなくなる。自分でも不思議なくらい。成田くんはいつでも僕に大事なものをくれるんだ。一番困ってる時にやってきて助けてくれて忘れられないものをくれて、それで愛してます。誰よりも。こんな気持ちきっともう二度とない。
Love was a sentiment the Avengers had no need for, a fragment of humanity I was certain I had long since abandoned. However, abandoning it would have been a mistake. Only humans could carry out revenge. If I truly disposed of my human heart, then it was little more than a machine with one function in mind: vengeance. This was mine. This rage, hatred, grief, conflict, everything was mine. I planned to risk it all to complete the solemn prayer for the dead.
だが、私は君の行為を受けられない。その資格がない。
どうしてそんなこと言うの？時野さんに止められたから？それとも母の言いつけでこんなことしてると思ってる？
そういう意味ではないのだよ。
Shindy Naruto planned to accomplish his goals no matter the cost. Planned to kill her father and bring ruin to the one place she wished to protect. Forming a deep connection with her was simply unforgivable.
私は空子が考えているよりもずっとひどい人間だよ。
理由を教えて。
それは言えない。
I couldn't control my own expression. I touched her cheek with my fingertips. Her Caucasoid blood made it as pale and smooth as porcelain. Whiteness made her skin appear cold, but there was a certain warmth to it. Certainly warmth to it.
私は
Fucking decide.
君に幸せでいてほしい。
Despite all the deceit clouding them, as words came from the heart, I remained entirely aware of the fact that I planned to destroy her
だから
happiness.
言うのはこれが最後だ。私にはもう近づくな。道が違うのだから。
僕は成田くんがどんな人でも構わない。僕、今までに叶えたい願いなんて一つしかなかった。僕は願いなんて叶わないって知ってたから。だから何かを欲しがったりお願いしたりなんて、そんな無意味なことしようと思わなかった。でも願えば叶うことだってあるんだ。だからこれは2つ目なんだよ。成田くん、成田くんと一緒にいたい。どんな秘密があっても、本当はどんな人でも構わない。
Teary eyes made me lose my words.
僕はあなたのことを愛してるから。
I kiss her. We expressed our desire for each other as though all restraints had been broken. For I knew it, I was on top of Sorako. She raised her jaw and kissed me with the passion of a person in a blizzard seeking warmth. I knew this act was sinful, but couldn't help but embrace her
愛し
tightly.
ている。空子。
Making use of a moment I got to breathe, I whispered that into her ear in order to prevent any regrets. I loved her, with all my heart, I did. That was why I spoke a certain
怒
oath.
りを得たらためらうな。
成田くん、もっと近くに。
For all I knew, she may not have heard me, but I burnt that promise deep into her. Sorako placed her hands around my neck and basically clung to me with all her strength. For a moment I felt like I'd regained peace I'd lost long ago.
もう離さないから。離さないで。
I am now certain that his halo has something to do with like some type of hypnotic suggestion almost. Because he seemingly used his halo to like imprint a quote-unquote command on her. Almost. But then it wouldn't make sense that he didn't use it in Tummel's route because it would give him away. Because he just used it without her realizing it. So that would mean it would be very easy to hide the fact that he used it. Unless the person needed to hear it, but then Sorako didn't notice it, so that couldn't be it either. Our lips parted and she showed me a smile full of love and joy. It was akin to a blooming flower, and her rosy cheek made it all the more
い
beautiful.
つか誓いの時がやってくるまでそうすると約束しよ
Kissed her yet
う。君
again.
は誰よりも愛らしいとも美しく豊かで安らぎがある。
そんなこと言い過ぎ。
Sorako had a right to act more confident. Apparently, living here in the academy and being in the 12 had made her believe in
なら
herself.
ば自信を持てるように私がどれほど空子に端的しているのか見せてあげよ
やっぱり恥ずかしいな。
We were lying in bed in each other's embrace.
やっぱり恥ずかしいから、お布団かぶらせて。
熱くはないかね。恥じることなどないというのに。
こういうのは、また別に恥ずかしい時なんだから。
うん。難しいことだね。
成田くん。
Sensitive she was, Sorako asked me that question. She was a considerate girl.
なんでもない。些細なことだよ。
Gazed at her flush-loathed face and thought that this peace wouldn't last long. Planned to fulfill my oath very soon. Prayed that when that time came, she wouldn't hesitate. Since she Mininaita had to do what he had to do, Sorako Katusragis had to make the right choice by herself. Sorako whispered some words to me in a saccharine voice.
今、すごくドキドキしてる。これからどうなるんだろうって。すごく楽しみ。今日が幸せだから、明日はもっと幸せになりたいって思えるんだね。こんな気持ち、初めて。この気持ちが、ずっと続いてほしいな。
私もそう思うよ、ソラコ。
I hugged Sorako tight, making her twist her body in joy. Thus, the dazzling sunlight that signaled a brand new day arrived. I felt like I'd had a good dream for once, but forgot its contents. It was 5 in the morning, almost time for my routine training. Sorako was still sleeping in my bed. However, I didn't want to wake her, so I decided to head to the dome's garden. I walked to the front entrance, breathing in the early morning air. Inside, I found Saku, who looked as though she was suffering from sleep deprivation, a cold, and a period all at the same time. She had the aura of a dead sunfish.
おはよう、サク。本日はとても気分のいい朝なのだが、私の気のせいでなければ、君の体調がひどく悪いように見える。
成田真理。
Her voice sounded as dead as the rest of her. Felt akin to the city of Detroit right after it became a ghost town due to the decline of its auto industry and lack of funds.
私、昨日寝苦しくて、深夜に起きてキッチンに出て行ったんだけど。
うん、何の問題もないだろう。
Saku's room was in the corner of the second floor, while the kitchen was to the left of going down the stairs. Walking down the stairs and to the first floor, retrieving the soft drink called Dr. Pepper, and returning to her room was a simple task.
もちろん、繊細な君が夜中に起きてきた時に防音壁の向こうにあるわずかな物音が気にかかって奥の部屋まで様子を見に行ったりしたのでなければだが。
言ったわよ、すごく言ったわよ。偉そうにしたのでなければだがじゃないわよ。
Oh boy, I can't wait for her route. After dressing me down with tear-filled eyes and a red face, she started bawling.
クラウンの筆頭ともあろうものが人前で涙など見せるものではないと。それにこの絵面ではまるで私が泣かせてしまったようではないかね。
ようではないかねじゃないわよ。
She suddenly seemed rather
朝から情緒不
intimidating.
安定のようだね。
誰のせいだと思ってやがんだ。死なせるぞ。
敬愛すべきクラウン筆頭殿、君は時折やけに柄が悪くなってしまうな。
やかましい。あなたって人はそらこになんてことを。
私としたことが扉の向こうに隠れている策の気配を見落とすとは、どのあたりから出ばがめっていたのかね。とか熱い吐息を吐きながら扉に耳を当てて声を盗み聞き、こっそり陰猥にふけっていたのかね。
誰が陰猥だ。
言っておくが、両者の同意と覚悟の上のことだ。君がとやかく言うことはあまりないのだよ。無論君が友人としてではなく女性として空子を愛していたのであれば、この結末に男として黙って一発殴られるくらいのことはしよう。
それはない。
私も些細なことは気にしない主義だが、問答無用でガゼルパンチを入れてから言うべきセリフではないような気がするのだが、どう？
ええ、そうね。殴ってから言うのもなんだけど、あなたの言う通りだわ。私が口を出すことじゃないから、もう一発殴りたいけど我慢するわ。
She's just gonna approach him every round like, okay, if you make her sad, I'm going to end you. And then he just fucking makes him sad because he's too fucking stubborn about his revenge. But then they turn around anyways and stop him from going too far. And she never punches him for it.
だけど、私は空子の友達だから。万一あなたがあの子を不幸にするようなことがあれば、たとえ空子がかばっても容赦しません。
確かに承知した。
それと寮の風紀にも関わりますから、くれぐれも玉緒やエルにバレるような真似はやめてください。
うん、いいとも。ところで私はそろそろ日課を始めようと思うのだが。
日課？ここで？
部屋には空子がまだ眠っているのでね。構わないかね。
いいわよ、好きにしなさいよ。
感謝する。では
Prepare to perform my daily breathing exercise.
パンツまで脱ぐな
ー! Sakura appeared to be in an especially bad mood this morning. We had choreography first. Due to the earlier accident, the building had been closed, so we no longer had practical lessons. Aside from us 6 étoiles, there were premieres above in the classroom, making a total of 40 people. About 50% of the students at the academy were coryphees. Coryphees were essentially HMIs who could deliver results that a normal human could. They had, for example, halos that couldn't do much more than enhance a finger enough to pierce a plank. Most of their halos had low power and lacked precision. It meant that they were immature, so the academy focused on advancing them to higher stages. However, regardless of how powerful they were, they didn't have to be said that they were extremely dangerous to general society. 30% of the rest were solists. Premiers and above, ones with obviously powerful halos, only made up 20% of the academy student body. In that specific choreography class, we had all premiers and above, what you could call the main force of the academy's HMIs. But that powerful preface meant nothing to the maidens decorating this garden of learning.
それでどんな味ですか？レモンですか？それともイチゴでしょうか？成田だけに腐った牛乳とかありえますか？自分それなら超最悪だと思います。
それはなんていうか、僕初めてだったからそんなに余裕なかったし。
嘘だ！成田とかがありえねえ。で、それはともかくさ、どうだったの？息するのを忘れるとかマジ
？While that girl's talk bloomed, Saku, who was seated by my side, had her face on the desk.
何もかも完全に広まっているようだが。
空子、成田の部屋出てきた。
It helped me understand how everyone had found out. Though we lived in a digital age, social hacking was still a thing to fear. Ancient wisdom said that you could not put a door over the mouth, and that remained true to this very day.
空子は男子にも女子にも人気あったから注意しなさい。
I heard whispers all over the classroom and felt glares pierce me from several directions.
どうして嬉しそうにするの？もしかすると挑んでくるなら返り討ちにできて最高とか、週刊ステップ連載漫画の主人公みたいなことを考えてるんじゃないでしょうね。
君は私をバトルマニアの変態か何かと思っているのかね。
変態には違いないだろ。
愛し合う人が周囲の人気の的で羨望の目をひたすら注がれるというのはいい気分だね。
正直すぎるわよ。
Miss Tokino arrived right when Saku hit the desk and stood up. She is not happy about the situation, probably. A few seconds later, the bell that signaled the start of class resounded. The recording ended, and Light returned to the classroom. Strange silence filled the space. Everyone, students at 12 and even Miss Tokino, remained silent. No one knew exactly what to say.
以上が記録です。本日の課題達成者は桂木空子さんでした。
What? She repeated what everyone knew just to buy time, since she needed to make sense of the situation.
興味深い結果になったね。
確かに。
There was no need to state that I shared Miss Tokino's sentiment. The choreography took 2 hours. During the first hour, we had a simple test here in the school building, while during the second, we examined a recording of the test. The activity was a search, much like the one we had when the accident happened. We had to retrieve a target based on the provided name. You weren't told what it was. It could have been an object, data, creature, person, anything, really. All we knew was that was the name they gave us. As the representative of the students, all the A12s took part, myself and Taigi included, of course. The winner was...
彼女は何もしていなかったね。
Indeed, Sorako simply happened to win before anyone realized it.
サクも戸惑っているようだ。
仕方のないところだろう。記録を見ても空子は何もしていない。
Or to be more precise, Sorako had done something, but no amount of explanation helped us understand what had happened. The recorded actions seemed no different from her actions in other tests. She moved through the designated areas, searched for the objective, and acted appropriately. According to the videos, Saku had found the item first. Various events happened during the remaining time frame. The objective changed hands many times, until it finally found its way to Sorako. Time limit had then ran out, and that was that. Saku and Tomo all had many chances to win. However, that hadn't happened. Had Sorako won by accident? Perhaps it could have been a stroke of luck. However, had that truly been enough to help her come out on top?
すごいですね、桂木さん。
はい、なんだか心も体も軽くって。
Like, Tokino's just sitting there like... Mr. Narita, please come to my lab later. Then after school, how about marrying her?
今後も頑張ってください。あなたはエトワールなのですから。
That's right, y'all! If you want to be powerful like her, find a guy and fuck him. Tokino went from being perplexed to showing joy. She seemed so happy that outsiders would have assumed she was celebrating her own victory.
空子、今までは低空飛行っつうか。今日は違いますね。語彙の少ないヤンキーの代わりに自分が語るなら、やはり大人になると一味違う。うっさい！そんな一味いんねえよ。うっさい、すごい、やばい、マジすごい、マジやばい。自分、簡単ヤンキー語講座やれます。
The reason behind Sorako's change in mental state was probably...
成田。
Apparently the dignity of the crowd had reached the same conclusion I did.
例には及ばないとも。
誰が言うか。だいたい成長期のハローは心理的影響を受けやすいからって、これがハローによるものだって決まったわけじゃないでしょ。
全く同感だ。
え？
The change in Sorako last night could have affected her halo. Still, that didn't explain this result.
はいはい。マジ真剣に見てたら、すごい言語中枢がマジやばいですね。マジでマジで。
お前いっぺん閉めてやろうか。
ふわー、マジでやばくてすごく怖いです。マジで。
静かにしなさいやな。
Saku scolded the two individuals who were messing around despite the tense situation in the classroom. A second later, the bell that signaled the end of class rang. The look Miss Tokino shot at me as she left reminded me of one she'd give a bug that landed on your precious flower. You'd give a bug.
大義、もしも近日中に私が失踪するようなことがあれば、犯人は時の女子だと先に言っておこう。
君の言うことはいつもよくわからないが、まあ、わかったよ。
Ty just said there like, I mean, I don't fucking know what you're talking about, but sure. I mean, he definitely knows what he's talking about, let's be honest. He made a face like an old friend and nodded. We moved out to the hallway, and Sorako stood next to the teacher's platform and ran up to us.
やるじゃんか。ソラコは見た目の割に地味だったから心配してたんだよな。
Damo left with those simple words of encouragement behind as she walked off on her own. Recently, she'd been acting solo almost all the time outside of class.
なんですこの好成績。どんなチートを使ったのですか?
Sorako ignored Eru, who was waiting for her at the entrance, and walked by as if she wasn't even there. She then started running, even skipped as she took her last few steps. Naturally, she was coming to me.
どうだった僕。
素晴らしかったよ。見事なものだ。特に大きく跳躍するとしなやかな客船がチラチラするのが最高にいい。
スルーかよ。
You could see the joy in her flushed face. She usually remained calm, so seeing that news out of her was a true delight.
頑張ったから。
Everyone had already heard about us, so she ignored the onlookers, clung to me, and rubbed her cheek into my chest. A pleasant, bittersweet smell reached my nose. I caressed her head. Her foreign hair was akin to golden droplets that shone just as they had all those years ago. I looked around and saw Saku and Taigi leave the classroom.
久しぶりに面白い講義の時間だったよ。サク？
何?
Saku gasped and looked around, which made it seem like she'd spaced out. But she lost the thought. The expression on her face appeared far colder than that. Was she looking at me? No, it felt like she was looking at a thorn in her side, and her eyes were directed at.
どうかした?
なんでもないとも。
Worry? I had to have been imagining it. Saku hadn't felt well since that morning. It had to have been that.
サク、どうかした? 浮かない顔をしていたみたいだけど。
Startling sound resounded through the halls. So that extended the hand to Saku out of consideration, but it was now directed elsewhere, for Saku had coldly pushed it away.
別に何も。
The unexpectedly ice-cold response made Sorako go stiff. Eru and Taigi looked at them to see what went wrong. The reaction was so unexpected that even I remained still for a moment.
私、ごめんなさい、ソラコ。
She grabbed Soroko's hand as though she herself was surprised by her
なん
action.
か朝からぼーっとしてて、今日はすごかったわね。私も負けてられない。
Saku Tonashi smiled the way she usually did. Relieved, Sorako squeezed her hand back.
ありがとう、サク。
僕からも祝福を送らせてくれないか。素晴らしかったよ。
ありがとう、タイギ。
本当に幸せそうで何よりだ。Taigi then moved quickly, but in a way that made it impossible for Sorako to tell what he was up to something. That he was up to something. He arrived right next to my ear.
そして彼女に力を与えた君との愛情にこそ。
わー、パチパチ、ブレイスユー。
It sounded like brace you. Which now makes me feel like Edo was like, yay, clap, clap. No, brace yourself, motherfucker.
廊下ではやめなさい。時の先生に睨まれるわよ。
Amused, Edo clapped and played along with Taigi for once. Sorako reformed a troubled expression, rubbed her temple.
もう嫌だな。
Sorako stood next to me and linked our arms. Pale hallway where the two of us stood side by side. It was akin to a scene I dreamed of when I was young. Her face was flushed with happiness, and she looked like a bride ready to throw her wedding bouquet. It was far too bright and warm for me. Let me hope for the impossible. Hope that this continued forever. However, I knew that was no eternity, and that this paradise would eventually end. After all, I was Shinri Narita's goal.
おめでとう、成田。
ありがとう、大義。君の祝福に感謝を。
His eyes, which only I saw, were akin to sharp daggers. He walked 2 steps away in the most natural manner, then stood back to back with me.
いや、僕も嬉しいよ。実のところ、空子と幼馴染でね。彼女があんな顔で笑うのは7年ぶりだ。
A voice as heavy as mercury. Couldn't see what kind of face he was making, but I had a good guess.
ならば、失われた時間は私が取り戻してやるべきなのだろうね。
Tiger's response was as soft as always.
振り返っても意味などないよ。人の命は今の幸福と共にある。誰しもそうあるべきじゃないのかな。
Tiger's over here like, just leave things to me. You just go with Sorako. I'm gonna kill my dad. And we don't have to do anything else. You just leave her dad alive, right? Or, you know, just ruin his empire and run away with her. It's always also an option. Come on. Just forget the little fire thing. Those were the words that had tried to seduce me many times. I closed my eyes and opened them again. No matter how much I questioned it, my resolve would not shake.
振り返らなければ得られないものもある。前しか見えぬものは前を向かぬものと同じだけ盲目だ。
I could feel Soroko shake within my arms. Slight, but it seemed to be an expression of fear. Saying nothing, she continued to cling to me, sadly embraced her slender waist as well.
オルフェウスの神話を知っている？彼は死を超えて再会できた妻を失ってしまった。振り返らなければ奇跡を手にできたのに。
それは過ちだったのか？私は必然だったと思う。愛していたから振り向いたのだ。オルフェウスは神ではなく、人として自らのなすべきことを果たした。何度やり直してもきっとオルフェウスは振り向くだろ
う。失うとしても
大丈夫だよ、大義。僕はきっと幸せになる。
I mean, it probably will be the case that it's gonna all end well for them. Well, end well in very big fucking quotation marks, you know. But still, you know what I mean. Sorako didn't even look back at Taiga as she said that. Not even a hint of hesitation seemed to dwell within her words. Sakura and Ada looked at us, curious about the subject of our conversation.
君たちの行く末に平穏と祝福を。
Sorako, Taigi, and I almost felt this, though time had reversed. But I knew the vacuum between Taigi and I would never be filled. The season of paradise had passed. The rainbow of days long gone was nowhere in sight. After 7 long years, Shinri Narita had become an avenger. After school, Sorako and I walked through the campus grounds, showered by the evening sun. Saku and the others were in the dorm, so for that day, at least, we planned to spend time together like this.
べったりくっついた状態のまま歩くのは気分がいい。見慣れた校内をあてもなく歩き回るだけでも、空子と2人ならまた違った発見がある。
僕、このまま宇宙になっていけそうだよ。
歩いていくと月まででも飲まず食わずで10年以上かかってしまう。少し遠いね。
空気読めない成田くんもすごく素敵。
As we walked, the sun traveled further down, and by the time the academy became a sea of crimson light, we arrived at the Rose Garden.
いい場所だね、ここ。今までそんなに気に留めたことなかったけど。
黄昏が花を彩って。
Felt like a field of gold that cut to Sorako's hair. It truly stirred one's poetic heart. Not saying a word, we just stood together and gazed at it. This moment of burning evenfall was akin to the thing linking us. It made me think of absurd thoughts like the scene extending far beyond the horizon. Then noticed that the dazzling twilight had passed, and the dim curtains of darkness fell upon the world. As though laughing at our foolish romance, a great tower stood tall within the old forest beyond the rose garden. In a way, it was a symbol of the academy, and it reminded me of exactly who I was.
今朝のコレオグラフでは何があったのかね。
それが僕もよくわからなくて。
According to Miss Tokino, the first time a person activated the halo, or in other words, an event in ascension, they often didn't remember it. Essentially, a person's consciousness had trouble keeping up with the fact that the brain had developed a new function. Was it the same with Sorako? She had trouble keeping up with her halo.
せっかく二人きりなのにムードのないことを聞いてしまったね。今日はゆっくりとデートしておきたかったのに。
今日は？明日は何かある？
Sorako was really sure.
仕事の都合で一日学園を離れる。外出許可をもらっているのだよ。さて、もっとこの場にふさわしい話をしよう。そう、例えば特殊相対性理論の解釈についてなどどうだろう。
What?
ダメに決まってるだろう。
As I stared at the roses and thought of a subject, Sorako put on her glasses.
今最高潮に素敵ムードに盛り上がろうと思っていたところだったのに、空気を読めなどと理不尽は言わないが、多少出番を考えてはどうかね。
Like you don't have any right to tell anyone to read the mood.
お前。
She directed near murderous hostility at me. She was never friendly around me, but she was never this antagonistic either.
その目、何かあったのかね。
あったのかじゃなくて、しただろ、やっただろ。昨日の夜、死ぬほど痛い目に遭わせたろ。おお、じゃない。
She looked at me with intimidating eyes. That was the first time it happened to me that day.
なるほど。言われてみれば。
As far as MPD cases went, Sorako was special. They did sleep, but they were active even if they were in control, which meant that if we did things like that.
空子の裏側にいる君もウハウハというわけなのだね。
Instead of responding, she launched a twisting right hook, which I dodged by tilting my head to the side.
私が不快だったのは、まあいいだろ
う。さっき怒っていなかったかね。何やらコークスクリューブローが飛んできたような気がするのだが。
幻覚だろ。
うん。ところで空子はどうしたのかね。
お前と話があるから代わってもらったんだよ。一つだけ言っておく。まかり間違って空子を不幸にしたら、この前の約束を覚えてるな。
少なくとも今のところ彼女は不幸ではないと思うが、もしかすると私の目の錯覚だろうか。
まあね、今のところはそうだ。超ハッピーって感じでそばで見てていたいんじゃなくて、まあなんだ。
そういうことなら問題はあと一つだな。以前から気になっていたのだが、君はいいのかね。
私？どうして私が？
She really didn't seem to get it. Was as though we weren't in sync.
空子の同居人である君が空子を案じるのは理解できる。しかし君自身はどうなのだろう。仮に私と空子が結ばれるとしたなら、当然君も一緒にいることになる。だから尋ねているのだよ。君は、そう、空子の相手が私であることに不満はないのかね。いや、心身ともに完璧である私への不満がないというのであれば、それも当然理解できるが、
関係ないだろ。
Response was curt and unexpected.
不満はないならともかく、関係ないとは。
In a way, her response was intriguing. Personality was one's sole vantage point into the world, but Sorako-Katusragis had two of them within her. She was both an HMI and a case of MPD. Was this perhaps the reason why Tokino Yomise thought she was a candidate for whatever came next?
私はただの交代人格なんだよ、成田真理。生まれてすらいないものを人間と呼ぶな。ここにいるのは空子の影だ。
私の知る限り、空子はそうは思っていないようだが。
あの子は 寂しい時に隣を埋めてくれた私は友達か何かみたいに思ってるんだわ。
いけないのかね。この問題については私は空子に味方しよう。君は空子と一緒にいるが空子とは違う。
だから人間だというのはただの気の迷いだ。私はお前や空子とは決定的に違うんだ。私には家庭がない。この私へ至るための道のりをどんな過去も持っていない。ある日突然この私として現れた。私にあるのは知識だけだ。初めて見た夕日も触れた水の冷たさも遠くから聞こえてくる鐘の音も。
Sorako-B insisted that progression in past was the proof of a human, that there was no meaning in the fruits of results, and that the path alone was mankind's treasure. It was as red as fresh winter snow, was pure. Joy, pain, loneliness, laments, all those precious things added up to create a human in its purest form. Without just one of those, they would become something different. In that case, could being that didn't have a past truly be considered its own entity? No, said Sorako-B. Thought of asking what she thought of amnesiacs, but didn't. She probably didn't care about whether or not someone had memories or experienced something. Sorako-B actually had no past, period. Alternative personalities were warped copies born from the original. Imitations controlled by the machine we called the brain.
ならばやはり君は人間だな。
お前、私の話を聞いてなかったのか？
君はすでに過去を持っているのだから、空子と共に過ごして何年になるのだろう。私も知らないその時間は君を証明。君は過去なく現れたかもしれないが、人とは誰しもそうしたものだよ。過去とはあるものではない。自分の手で得ていくものだ。
本当に他人の話を聞かないやつだな。
Spat out his words with an irritated expression on her face.
交代人格は言ってしまえばバグだ。私はハローに目覚めた空子のトラウマから生まれたミスコード、脳というシステム、精神というプログラムの異常でしかないんだぞ。
All the time, I didn't know what Sorako-B was. I couldn't get a proper grasp of her. Of course I couldn't, even she herself didn't define herself as human.
私はようやく答えを得たよ。だから質問を変えるとしよう。君の幸はどこにあるのかね。
何の話をしてる？
覚えていないか？空子に言ったことだ。人の形は人の数だけある。人間とは数十億の狂気そのもの。過去がない程度の歪さで人ではないなどおこがましい。人間とは何者であっても幸福になる権利はあるのだと私は信じている。君という人間も空子のことを多少困らせるのだとしても自分の幸せを探してみればいい。
むちゃくちゃ言うなよ。私はただのサブだ。メインを困らせてどうする？
これは勝手な推測だが、空子は君に感謝している。そして私も感謝を述べよう。空子を支えてくれたことに。
Till she came to the academy, Sorako's circumstances were extremely rough. She'd only managed to keep herself together because of Sorako-B. Sorako-Katusragis had made it this far because she wasn't alone.
人から感謝を捧げられる者がどうして己の幸福を求めてはならないと言えるだろう。
With their glasses still on, Sorako-B stood in place and blinked a few
求
times.
めよ、さもなくば答えられんだ。幸に思い当たらないなら試しに今日から探してみてはどうかね。今までとは違う未知に挑むのは心躍るものだよ。
お前、絶対に頭がおかしい。
She badmouthed me, but that was adorable in its own right.
私は空子に幸せであってほしい。君と空子は共存しているのだから、二人とも幸せであるならその方がいい。君自身が消えたいと思っているのならともかく、そうではないのだろう。空子も君がいて不自由は感じていないようだし。
馬脚を表したな。 仮に私が人間だと仮定しても、体はソラコのもの一つだけだ。私が幸とやらを求めたら、それはソラコの迷惑になるかもしれないぞ。
She grinned as she asked what I would think of that, looking like a devil testing a ear wandering through a wasteland.
さあ、どうさせるんだ？お前みたいに身勝手に振る舞って、体をめぐって争えばいいのか？
Considering like the main story I think of when I hear like devil testing someone in the desert. Did he just equate himself to Jesus? You know the whole story where Jesus was wandering through the desert while according to the Bible these days, Satan tempted him, even though it wasn't. It was an angel. I mean, technically, it was Satan, since Satan is literally just like opposed to God. So anyone in whoever like spoke out against God was called Satan. And there are specific angels meant to like speak out against God and test humanity every now and then. At least according to some of the translations. Beliefs, anyways.
君がどうするかは君次第だ。
結局人任せか。いい加減なやつね。
私は君の言う通り、愚かで身勝手な人間だ。
Shinri Naita was an avenger who killed to sate his burning rage.
幸せとは自分でなければ見出せない。私であろうと、他の誰であろうと、そこには何もできないのだ。誰かの幸福とは、誰かの不幸でしか贖えないものなのだ。人には幸を得ようとする権利はあるが、それは誰かを不幸にするという意味だよ。それでも、人は幸せになってもいいのだと。一人で幸せになるのが嫌だというのなら、二人で探してみてはどうかね。
なんだって？
幸せに決まった形はない。二人ならば見出せる幸というものも必ずあるだろう。
She don't respond. And I had no more words to share either. My own words weighed heavily on my mind. Could Shinri Narita find happiness with Sorako Katusragi? Discarded the illusion from my heart, erasing it without leaving even the slightest trace.
成田くん。
Now the person I talked to was replaced by the usual Sorako.
彼女はどうしたのかね。
奥に引っ込んで、呼んでも出てこないみたい。
うん。すっかり嫌われてしまったようだ。
そんなことはないと思う。成田くんの言った通り、何年も前、辛かった頃は一人じゃなかったから耐えられたんだ。だから、彼女には本当に感謝してる。
She spoke with rather evident affection in her voice. I could tell how much peace the other entity had granted her. She was to Sorako what Sorako was to Shinri Narita.
成田くんが彼女にも優しくしてくれて、すごく嬉しかった。きっと、彼女も嬉しかったと思う。
She closed in on me with the agility of a songbird.
だから、ありがとう、成田くん。
Then she stood on her toes and gave me a kiss as light as a feather. Roughly there. That is somewhat far away. And again, we were like here when I ended up before. I think. No, it was here, I think. Probably. Actually, no, it's the first sex scene happened. So it was probably like here or here. Still though, this has already gone on for quite a while. We'll probably end it here, honestly. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll try to finish this one tomorrow. Depends on how long the D&D session goes, because I have another D&D session tomorrow. They're usually always Monday. That's just how it is. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. For a second, I thought that the recording was paused. I just had a heart attack. Fuck. Bye.